Stand up, New York Giants fans. Stand up, New York Giants fans. Wake up. This is your alarm clock.
Sit down, New York Giants fans.
Sit down, New York Giants fans. Another week, another like Bad Dog and me were talking about like 3 minutes before we went live. Another week, another show where we're going to be talking about the conversation is going to be directed towards the draft because unfortunately the Giants are 2-8 and it's not
Moved
looking
up to second.
yeah. And this week, Bad Dog, we're playing Washington, a team that we seem to beat every time we play them, who's not a very good football team. I'm not saying they're awful. Hal's played well this year, but they're not a very good football team. And we are getting 10.5 points. That's how bad it is right now with this football team. Like, if you're double-digit underdog against Washington, you're not going to be favored against anybody. We're the worst team in the NFL right now.
The Pats will be interesting, although I'm going to give the Patriots 1.5. I think the Patriots will be favored by 1.5. That's the week after.
Yeah.
So we got Washington this week, and as I've said on Twitter this week, if Washington can't beat Tommy DeVito, they ought to be exiled to the CFL. If they can't beat the Giants Sunday, the Washington Redskins, and that's right, I call them that, they ought to forfeit every time they play the Giants. Because I don't care if it's Redskins, the football team, the Commanders, the Commodes, the Red Wolves, the Gray Wolves, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. If they can't beat the Giants,
I think they're going to. But I just don't feel confident enough, like I told you before, when live to pick my knockout pool because I never feel confident picking Washington. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's nothing to really go over in terms of the game. We know where we're at. We know Tommy DeVito's starting at quarterback. We know what this team is. They're not good. They're horrible right now. We've got an awful line. We've got awful quarterback play. We've got awful everything. And even the defense, which was showing signs of hope and life. And you were like, wow, this is something we could actually really build towards, at least going into next year. At least that could be a silver lining out of this season. That has been awful the last couple of weeks. They gave up almost 700 yards last week to Dallas. And I understand some of it is certainly due to the fact that the defense probably sees the writing on the wall. They know, it's not easy to go out there every week knowing that your offense is going to produce nothing. And now you're down to your third string quarterback. So that certainly has something to do with it. But there's really not much hope and not much to look forward to if you're a Giants fan for the remainder of this season. And that's why, unfortunately, we know before we go live and do these shows, Bad Dog, inevitably the conversation is going to turn to what is going to give us hope. And it's certainly not going to be this Sunday. It's going to be in April.
Right.
And we're all too familiar with this as Giants fans.
Yeah, I mean, part of it to me, I think once Tyrod went down and the Tommy DeVito just came in and handed the ball up a million times against the Jets, and they ended up losing. I think at that point, the defense said, screw this. Screw this. They gave up 30 points to the Raiders. They gave up 24 in the first half. The Raiders hadn't scored 21 points in a game all year. And this was with a new head coach and a rookie quarterback. And, Josh Jacobs, who was averaging about 3 yards a carry, was averaging about 5 yards carry against us. And then, of course, Dallas, that was just a complete embarrassment by the defense there. Dak throwing for over 400 yards. They had 368 yards of offense at the half. We had 27 yards. They had 28 points. Absolutely pathetic. I don't think the defense cares. Saquon Barkley came out today, and I just had to laugh at it when he says, "Oh, we're not, we're 2-8, but it don't feel like 2-8." Well, that's a problem then, because it should feel like 2-8. He's like, we're not going to go around going, "Oh, our lives are miserable. There's a lot of joy around here." Well, listen, I'm not asking Saquon and the Giants to feel miserable, but you certainly shouldn't be feeling any joy about being 2-8 and having a point differential of over 150. There is nothing to be joyous about. I guess your paycheck. I mean, shit. If I was getting 10, 15, $20 million, I'd be pretty happy about that.
The only thing that makes sense to me, I get where Barkley's coming from. He knows that he's trying to stick up for his coach at the end of the day.
I know what Barkley's doing.
He's trying to show that the team still stands behind Brian Dable and that they're not quitting on their coach. So I understand where he's coming from, but I also understand, it's probably not the best usage, the best word to use.
Joy's not a good word. How about we just we're going out there, we're fighting, we're competing, we're doing the best we can. We're not going to give up. We got 7 more games to play. We're going to go out there and try to win each and every one of them. That's what you say.
Yeah.
Go, a lot of joy around here. Well, wait till you play the Eagles on Christmas, and then you can use that excuse because Christmas is a joyous time of year.
Yeah. 2-8, you shouldn't be joyful. That was a poor word.
Not a good adjective. But Christmas, we'll all be happy. Well, at least I'll be happy, and Chris will be happy because we don't have to stream that game. So, there's our Christmas present.
Yes, and thank you to everybody for being here. We realize that it's dark times right now, so we don't expect big crowds with these shows because there's not much to talk about. But we appreciate all you guys: Albin, Word, Sydney, it's Rick, Scott, Young, Afghanistan, of course, always in the chat. I saw Bill M in the chat. Thank you to everybody. Justice, Dad, Kaikus, thank you guys. Word says I'm standing. Well, you know what? Good for you, man. I'm happy that you guys still support the team and listen, I just hope things get better. I was about to say, Bad Dog, I hope things get better before they get worse, but it can't get much worse. We say that all the time, and somehow it does, but I can't imagine it getting much worse.
Spring is always a time of, everything blossoms. Everything is new. Life returns. I mean, when you're living in the South, have the leaves off the tree and foliage and snow and all that crap. Everything dies over the winter. You don't have this issue. But up here, in the great Northeast, we do have that where everything dies during the winter. All the leaves, all the plants, all the trees are all dead. Grass, it's all dead. It's all brown and icky and just dried out and gross like the Giants. But then, April gets here, then spring comes around, and the sun starts coming out, and the weather gets warmer, and you see everything bud, and the leaves start to go, and there's life. That's going to be the Giants. So we just have to go through this long winter of dead foliage, right? Just dead times. It's dead. It's dead, quite frankly. Dead. And then as the spring gets here and we get our new quarterback, the leaves blossom. It's life.
Well, that's what's gonna, that's what's gonna bring hope back to this fan base.
Right.
Jack says, hope all is well. Bad Dog, where did you get that Mike Myers cup? And also hope you had a great birthday, Chris. I appreciate that, Jax. I did. I got to see Bill Burr, not one of my favorite comedians, so that was fun.
This guy I got at Spirit Halloween. My kid loves Spirit Halloween. Even when it's not Halloween, he likes to go to because he likes the animatronics. He likes the horror movie stuff. And I saw that there. No, they have another one. I have so many coffee cups, but they have another one that's a Friday the 13th mug, and his mask is there, like sticks out, and then the handle's a machete. So I thought that was cool, but I'm like, I have so many damn mugs already, and there's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre one. But yeah, I went with the Halloween too, but it's Spirit Halloween. And I'll be honest, you could probably get this from Amazon. You can get anything you want from Amazon. So if you look that up on Amazon,
yeah, for sure.
You probably get it for half what I paid for it too. There was only like $7.99, so it wasn't a lot. But
that is a cool mug, though.
I know Afghanistan. It's Afghanistan's favorite movie.
And Mark says, Bad Dog still holding your berth on the Tank Express.
Yeah, listen, man. I'm just embracing it, and I don't expect to win. I'm embracing. Listen, when license plate guy says I want a top 2 pick, I think the rest of us can throw it in. When LPG has relegated to tweeting,
he said that.
I want it. Oh yeah. Because I retweeted and I go, it's a bad season when you get this.
I missed that
from our guy LPG. Oh yeah.
No. I mean, listen. At the end of the day, let's be honest. Like if Jones was still the quarterback, it would be different. He wouldn't be saying that. But Tommy DeVito's the quarterback. Like what are we doing this year?
He said he wants a top 2 pick.
Yeah.
If he can throw it in, I can throw it in.
I'm never gonna root for my team to lose, but I'm not gonna. I'm at a point where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not rooting for them to lose.
If we lose, I understand there's a benefit.
I'm throwing it in. Like
I
don't care.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at. Bob says 2 or 8 or 8-2. I'll root for my boys no matter what. With the 2 best YouTubers, this crazy ride we're on, dude. It's been
horrible.
It's been a horrible ride outside of 1 year since we've been doing the show, but hopefully, Bob, one day it'll get better, and I just don't know when it's going to be. But thank you, man. I appreciate it.
The day of the draft.
Well, yeah, that day will be better.
Right.
That doesn't mean times will be better, but that day will be better.
Like I said, it might not be better, but it'll be different.
Different, yes. Chris says, which young players or players would you like to see more of or prove something during these last remaining games? I mean, if he gets back on the field, Evan Neal for sure. John Michael Schmitz is another guy. Like, you want to at least have some hope that this offensive line is going to be improved going into next year. You want to see those young guys start to grow and get better. And Kayvon Thibodeau, all the young players, Deonte Banks, the guys that are supposed to be core pieces of this team going forward. You want to see them grow and get better for sure. But yeah, the line for me, for sure, Evan Neal and John Michael Schmitz would be the two guys I would highlight.
You see that?
No, I can't. It's blurry. Oh, now it's better. What does it say? The Giants season is bad when our guy LPG wants to. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Good morning. Yes, I want a top 2 pick, or I would like a top 2 pick.
Yeah, so he's basically saying, I'm hoping we
lose.
So
if LPG, who is the biggest fan that I know, as far as like just goes to all the games, you ever seen his? You've seen it.
Yeah,
he's on your channel. His fan cave or whatever. He's got more merchandise in the Giants store.
I understand it. I get it. I obviously get the value, especially in this draft, of having a top 2 pick. So I understand where it's coming from. Lou says, you guys agree with Carl Banks and Eli's take on DJ? Well, I don't disagree with Carl, I have to say. I even posted that on Twitter. Carl didn't say anything bad, in my opinion. He basically just said if the offensive line is as bad as it is now, the quarterback's going to continue to struggle. And I agree with that. Are there certain quarterbacks that can make a bad offensive line look better? Yeah. But if you have the league's worst offensive line, the quarterback's not going to be able to have consistent success, or at least the team in offense won't. So I didn't disagree with what Carl had to say. As far as what Eli had to say, I mean, what do you expect Eli to say, Lou? I'm not going to get on Eli for that. Eli, that's his guy. That's his boy. He's a Giant through and through. And Eli's also been through the doldrums of being a quarterback in a disappointing season in New York. So he's going to stick up for his guy. But at the end of the day, for me, as much as I want to root for Daniel Jones and I want him to succeed, and as much as I was hopeful he was going to grow this year 2 in the offense, first things first, the guy's hurt again. He's had 2 injuries this year. Another neck injury, an ACL tear, I think it was, right? So, dude, the guy's been severely hurt since he's been in the league. He's only had 1 season where he's played start to finish. And you're going to be picking at the top of the draft with an opportunity to reset the rookie clock and give this general manager an opportunity to select his quarterback. So I disagree with Eli Manning, but I'm not going to kill him for it. I don't blame him for having that opinion. That's his guy. So what would you expect Eli to say? I agree with what Carl had to say. I don't think he said anything wrong. I think, fans that like try to say, oh, the quarterback could be successful with a bad offensive line. No, you need both to be good. You need both to be good to have consistent success in the NFL. So I didn't disagree with anything Carl had to say.
Eli, like I said, Eli's not going to bash Daniel Jones. Come on. That's not going to happen. Eli never bashed a player that I know of in his entire career. I don't remember. I mean, Odell Beckham took a lot of shots at Eli. Eli never responded. Eli's not that guy. He's not going to say anything bad about any of the New York Giants. It's just not what he does. Even if he thinks it, he's not going to say it. As far as what Carl said, I mean, I didn't disagree with him, but like I said when I responded to his tweet, I said, Carl's my guy, but you got to take quarterback here. Like, there's just no question. Now, maybe I misunderstood what he was saying because he was talking about how the offense. I saw it. He said if the offensive line is bad, the quarterback's going to suck, and the next one's going to suck, and the next one is going to suck. And somebody said to him, oh, so you're admitting Daniel Jones sucks. But my thing is, you don't get opportunities to draft quarterbacks at the top of the class. And my biggest thing is quarterbacks that get drafted this early are going to bad teams. There's a reason these teams are picking here. These quarterbacks go to these teams because things are not good, and these teams are picking at the top, and they say, we are rebuilding, and it starts with that quarterback. And then you build around him. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
Because if you have a really solid freaking team and a quarterback that may be average to mediocre, you're still winning a lot of games. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. You can't tell you. I'm sorry. Brock Purdy does nice things. You look at Brock Purdy, there's a reason the guy was Mr. Irrelevant. There's a reason he got picked in the 7th round. He didn't jump off the page at anybody. He's not doing anything special. He's not CJ Stroud. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not, Pat Mahomes. But he's in a optimal situation there.
Yeah.
So he's succeeding. That's rare. Or I'm sorry, that's rare that you find a guy that late in the draft. These guys that are picked early are picked early because that's where you turn your team around.
Yeah.
The Giants have taken swing after swing after swing after swing at this damn offensive line. We've spent more draft capital on the O-line than any other team since Daniel Jones was drafted. It continues to fail. They've taken shots at wide receivers, different coaches, different GMs, different coordinators. Have they tried to fix the quarterback yet?
Baddog, the bottom line is at the end of the day, well, I agree with Carl that the offensive line is vastly important,
without question.
Beyond important. And if the offensive line is this bad, which it won't be, it can't be this bad for the totality of the next quarterback's career, or at least you have to think that it's going to get better. That quarterback's going to struggle too. Might not struggle as much as Daniel Jones if he's a better quarterback, but he's still going to struggle. So from that standpoint, I agree. But yeah, I agree with you. Like if you're picking at the top of the whole reason why I think you and I mean, Jones played well last year. That's why we wanted him back. But a major reason why we wanted him back in addition to that was that we didn't have the opportunity to draft a quarterback.
Exactly.
And in 2021, we didn't have an opportunity to draft a quarterback because there wasn't a quarterback worth drafting at that high in the draft.
Right.
When you're picking this high in the draft in a strong quarterback draft class and your team is a complete mess, everybody should acknowledge both sides of it. Like, yes, for this team to get to where we want it to go, which is a Super Bowl at the end of the day, both the quarterback and offensive line need to be drastically improved upon. Both. But when you're picking this high in the draft in a rich quarterback draft class, you have to try to upgrade the most important position on a football team. Well, saying to yourself, I realize over the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to need to do everything in my power not to screw him up, which implies fixing the offensive line, throwing all your resources you can at that offensive line, throwing all those resources that you can at that wide receiver position, not changing the offensive coordinator 3 out of the first 4 years in the next quarterbacks. Like everything we did for Daniel Jones, we cannot duplicate that.
Absolutely.
Like Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback. I understand that. I acknowledge that. We're at a point now where we need to replace him. But we cannot fail the next quarterback the same way that we failed Daniel Jones.
Completely agree.
So
and I don't think we will.
Both things can be true. Both things can be true where we're in a position where we need to draft a quarterback, but the surrounding parts around that quarterback over the next 2 or 3 years after we draft this guy, if we do, need to get a lot better. So that's where I stand on the matter. But I agree with you. When you're in a position to draft the guy that you feel is an upper echelon quarterback, and we'll find out if Joe Schoen feels that way where we're picking, but if he feels that way, you take the quarterback. And Joe Schoen has been patient with this. He hasn't forced it. 2021, you had a lot of people saying Malik Willis or whatever, Kenny Pickett. He didn't do it. He said, no, it's not worth it. I'm gonna try to upgrade the surrounding parts on this roster. I'm gonna draft Evan Neal. We hoped at the time. Hasn't worked out. I'm going to draft Kayvon Thibodeau. Last year, I'm picking 25. I'm not in a position to trade up to get a quarterback. I'm going to continue to try to support this quarterback and this roster. But when you're in the position where you're staring an elite quarterback prospect smack dab in the middle, and your team's not going anywhere fast, and you have an opportunity to reset the rookie clock at the most important position, and it gives you another 2 or 3 years to continue to build around him, you do it. I don't even know why this is a debate at this point. It's obvious to me.
What do you think there's more of an abundance of people, linemen or franchise quarterbacks?
Well,
people are like, oh, there's no guarantee. No, there's not. We don't know what Caleb Williams will be in the NFL. We don't know what Drake May will be. We don't know what Michael Penix will be. We don't know. When people are like, oh, we're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. and draft, Michael Penix is not going in the second round. It's not happening. He's too good. The guy's going to finish second in the Heisman Trophy to Marvin Harrison Jr. And Washington has a chance. I don't think they're good enough to beat Georgia, but they have a chance to win a national championship. This is the thing. Quarterback is the toughest position to replace. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones's production or lack thereof aside, what happens if Joe Schoen says, all right, we're going to fix the O-line and we're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and build around Daniel Jones?
He loses his job if Jones gets hurt again or the team struggles.
There you go. There you go. And Daniel Jones has a neck injury, and then he's forced to retire. And then the next couple of quarterbacks, then when you're picking at the top of the draft again, Chris, and the quarterbacks aren't nearly as good, and you end up with somebody.
Well, I was presented with this hypothetical, and a lot of people, I think, and I understand where they're coming from. I was presented with this hypothetical on Twitter, I think like 2 or 3 days ago, and I retweeted it and I gave my opinion on it. If you were Joe Schoen and you had the first pick, would you trade down with Chicago if they say had picks?
I saw your response.
2 or 3 and 5, whatever. And I said, if I identified that there was an elite quarterback prospect, no. Because if you're Joe Shane, Bad Dog, why would you run the risk? At the end of the day, his job is going to live and die with the quarterback he drafts.
Yeah.
Period. That's it. He is going to either stay as the general manager for this team for the next 10 years, or he's going to be fired in 2 years if he misses on the quarterback. That's the truth. That's the reality of the situation. If I'm Joe Shane, why would I run the risk of not being able to select my favorite quarterback in this year's draft class if I had the first overall pick? The most important position on a football team. That is not a position I look for value. And then people say, well, maybe he'll view Drake May and Caleb Williams equal. No, he will not. No, he will not. He will have a preference. He will have a preference. And that's why if I'm at 1 and I have a preference at the quarterback position, which I think he will, I'm not trading out that pick for nothing. I'm taking my quarterback and I'm living and dying with that guy.
Yeah,
that's my selection. That's my guy.
And I agree. You don't settle. You go out and get the guy you want. You don't go, oh, well, we'll settle for this guy. Hell no, not when it comes to that situation.
Yeah.
Not in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow just got hurt.
And I understand, like, when you look at the points on the draft chart, they're like, well, the third, second, and fifth pick are worth an extra 1,000 points. Points go out the window when you have an opportunity to draft the guy that you feel is going to be that franchise quarterback. So that's the way I look at it. Everybody, can view it differently.
Yeah. Well, again, you don't franchise quarterbacks don't grow on trees. They're hard to get. And again, there's no guarantee that any of them are going to be anything. There's not. But regardless, that's a question mark. We know it.
And if you're
we know what Jones is. We've seen this for 5 years. We know what he is. He processes slowly. He's injury prone. He's had 2 neck injuries. And now a torn. These are not, he pulled a groin. Yeah. He has pulled a hammy. He got a concussion. These are neck injuries and a torn ACL. And a big part of Jones's game is mobility. And when you're talking about probably losing mobility from tearing a hamstring and playing behind a shitty O-line, that's going to make it worse. You've now taken one of Daniel Jones's biggest weapons away in his legs. Because let's be honest, anybody that watched Saquon Barkley before the ACL tear and after, that explosiveness ain't there like it used to be.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. So there is no way that if you're a GM and you're going into your 3rd year and a quarterback was you inherited this quarterback.
And again, I want to reiterate, Bad Dog, we're saying this is all dependent on the fact that Joe Shane loves a quarterback prospect in this draft. We're assuming that's going to be the case. And if he does, we're in agreement. You take him.
Yeah, there's no way they're not going to. It's job security.
Yeah.
And you don't even know when the hell Jones is coming back next year. So what are you going to do? You're going to throw away next year too?
No, you're not doing it.
Tyrod Taylor's a free agent. So what are you going to do? You're going to run it back with Tommy DeVito?
You're not doing it.
At the end of the day, this is about money. This is about business. You're John Mara. Now, people can say whatever they want about John Mara. He may not know football, but he's a smart businessman. You selling tickets going, Tommy DeVito is the opening day starter? Or are you selling tickets going, Caleb Williams is the opening day starter?
Yeah. Like,
what do you think brings more excitement to the fan base?
And for Shane, it's about job security. Correct. And last year, his best opportunity for job security was to maintain keeping Jones. Because he always had that in his back pocket. I never drafted the guy, and he knew he needed to fix so many holes on this roster. Wasn't in a position to draft the quarterback. This year, job security, again, dependent on where we're picking, but the way it looks, where we're probably going to be picking, it's going to be to take the quarterback. Brian says, but winters are so long, April is so far away. I know.
I agree with you, buddy.
You should become a Knicks fan, and maybe they'll get you through. John Letourneau says, you guys are the best. I can't lie and say that the Giants stink, but at least y'all are not like Dallas, happy in a loss. That's why they fail losers. Well, I mean, they didn't lose last week. They definitely lost to you guys, but they didn't lose last week. Dallas, you know what Dallas is, Bad Dog?
3 years.
You know what Dallas is? Dallas, and not just this year. Dallas, since really Dak has been the quarterback, is the Miami Dolphins of the NFC.
Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins this year destroy horrible football teams, destroy bad football teams. But when they play good ones, they can't beat them. The Dallas Cowboys are the Miami Dolphins of the NFC. That's what they are. But John, man, thank you very much. Bukala says, I can't handle this team going 0-7, but I need us to be competitive for at least 5 of the remaining 7, and mostly from the offense. I mean, I'd love to see it, Blue. I'd love to see the team go out there and fight and but I'd be lying to you if I expected this offense to show any. I think we're looking at 2021 all over again. I do. I mean, you're down to your third string quarterback. Your line's dinged up. Your wide receiver, your best weapon's hurt in the passing game with Darren Waller. I mean, what do you got to hang your hat on? So I think it's going to be a long 7 games. I think it's going to be a long 7 games.
Very long.
Yeah. And Mark says,
we our old friend Beckham there doing good things for the Ravens.
Did he score a touchdown?
No, he just got a big catch.
I know he had a touchdown last week. He had a big touchdown.
Joe Burrow got hurt. I don't know what the severity is of that, but Joe Burrow is hurt again. Joe Burrow's hurt. You can kiss Cincinnati goodbye.
Mark says, would you guys prefer to pick a top-notch guard or top-notch tackle and move Neal to guard? Oh, that's a good question, Mark. That's up to Shane in terms of whether or not he's Shane's in a tough spot there because Shane's, at the end of the day, Shane's going to take a huge L if Evan Neal does not work out. And that's up to him to decide. If he gets to the point now where he feels like Neal's best interest is to move to the guard, which I'm starting to lean myself, I would go to the tackle. But at the end of the day, I guess it's probably who's the best player on your board if you're going offensive line there. If you feel like there's a much better tackle and you're open to moving Neal to the guard, that's probably what you do. But yeah, that's going to be a huge test for Shane going into next year. Is he willing to pivot? You know, we saw that with, not even him. I guess that's Dable's decision. He's the coach. But we saw that with the Giants with Eric Flowers. And Flowers was awful, but they never were willing to move him to guard. And then he moved to Washington. And he was actually a solid guard. I'm not going to say he was great, but he was a solid guard.
He got paid from that. He got paid
by the Dolphins, I think, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, Mark, I'm not quite there yet. But I'm certainly getting there, and I'm certainly open to the idea of moving Evan Neal, I think, to the left guard. I think that would do him the best, playing next to Andrew Thomas on a side he's more familiar with from his collegiate days. That's what I would lean towards as a fan if this continues throughout the rest of the year, and there's no reason to think it won't. He's hurt, and he hasn't played well this year. So I wouldn't be against taking a tackle, that's for sure, and with the plan to move Neal to the inside.
Is anybody watching the Bengals game and know what the hell happened to Joe Burrow's hand? It looked like the hamburger helper hand. It was all swollen.
Oh, really?
I know what happened over there.
Mark, thank you again. The G-men are in a great spot to draft the quarterback because Jones could be cannon fodder while support personnel are improved. I mean, Mark, to me, and Baddog, I'll let you speak on this as well, the perfect situation for the Giants next year, and I don't think it'll happen, because nothing ever works out perfect for the Giants. But the perfect situation for the Giants would be if you did draft a guy like Drake May or Caleb Williams or whoever at the top of the draft, would be to start Jones if he was ready. And if the team was playing well, you leave Jones in. You hope he continues to play well. You let the young quarterback sit behind him, grow, learn. And if he plays well, maybe he presents some trade value going into the next year. That's a perfect scenario. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think the Giants will struggle. And by week 4, 5, or 6, even if Jones starts the year, they'll move to the rookie. But in an ideal world for me, yeah, it would be great to do what the Kansas City Chiefs were able to do for Pat Mahomes or so on and so forth. But especially, like you said, behind an offensive line where the rookie quarterback would probably get destroyed his first year as you're trying to continue to build that up. But I don't think that'll happen. But in a dream scenario, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've said that before, Mark. If Jones come back here next year, you can't cut him. They owe him $47 million. His dead cap $69 million. He ain't going anywhere. He's a Giant in 2024. And that was my thing, though. You draft the quarterback, Jones in the future. So you start building around the quarterback that you're drafting. That's what you're going to do. You're going to build around his skill set, not Jones's. And then, yeah, Jones is going to play the year until the rookie's ready or whatever. And like Chris said, hopefully he plays well enough where you can trade him against something, because we've seen a ton of quarterbacks go down this year. Joe Burrow just went down with something. I don't know what that was.
Every quarterback, Kirk Cousins, everybody's gotten hurt this year. It's wild.
Murray's been hurt. Like, there's a bunch of quarterbacks that have gotten hurt. So he would have some trade value for a team that might be competing for a playoff spot or whatever, and they lose their quarterback. But that's what I think is going to happen. I think Jones will be the starter. You know, they're not going to get rid of him. They're going to draft the and they're not going to sign a free agent backup, because Jones will be the starter. The rookie will be the backup, or vice versa, or whatever. But that's what it's going to be. I don't know.
Yeah. And Pete, man, thank you very much. He says, I'm very upset with both you, especially Dog. How dare you never owning a Mark Bavaro Mark Bavaro jersey?
Well, I mean, when Bavaro played, I mean, I could buy one now. I always said I got to get a Bavaro jersey. But when he played, I wasn't old enough to buy my own stuff. So nobody ever got me one. So
let me go down the list of jerseys I've owned. I saw your list. I mean, obviously,
just offense. And I had a Tiki Barber, and I forgot to put that.
I had a Tiki Barber. That was one of my first. I had a Tiki Barber. I had a Kerry Collins.
Rodney Hampton was the first one that I bought. That was the first one. Rodney Hampton. That was the first one.
Hampton, great. I didn't have his, but I loved him. Barber, Eli, Toomer, got it later. Shockey, Strahan. I had a Michael Barrow. I had a Matthias Kiwanuka. I had a Justin Tuck. I had obviously the new guys, Jones, Barkley. I never had an Odell jersey. I
have one of those.
Who else?
That was just my offensive guys. I didn't put the defensive guys.
Andrew Thomas. I had an Armstead. Yeah, I had a lot of Giant jerseys.
Yeah,
a lot of Giant jerseys. But thank you, Pete, man. I appreciate it, buddy. By the way, I always get in these great conversations with you guys, and I almost forget to pay the bills, as Bad Dog likes to say.
Pay the bills.
Go over there. By the way, it's right there. Put in the promo code ETS, Underdog Fantasy. Great sponsor of the channel. They've been with me now for a couple of weeks. That's the site. It's easy to use. It's prop picks. I've been spotting them for a little bit. So if you were picking tonight's game, I don't know. I didn't get an opportunity to do it before, but it's easy to use. So, for example, Joe Burrow, 250.5 passing yards, higher, lower. Take the lower. Yeah. Joe Mixon. So, you make 2 picks, you get 3 times your money, 6 times your money on 3 picks. It's fun. It's easy. You put in $100. They match your first 100 if you put in promo code ETS, Entertainment Talking Sports. So go over there, check them out. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you guys for all the support. And I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anybody. What do we got? John. He says, I am concerned Tyrod will come back, win a couple of games, and knock us out of the top 2 picks. Do you think Penix, Nix, or McCarthy are top 10 picks?
Penix is. The other 2 are not.
I'll answer that as it gets closer.
The other 2 are at the back end of the first round. Bo Nix is a second-round quarterback.
I'm not a Bo Nix fan. I'm not.
He's not good. He was not good at Auburn.
Yeah, I'm not a Bo Nix fan. And I know he's
below average Sam Howell. He's below Sam Howell.
Yeah. He's putting up numbers, but I think it's heavily influenced by the scheme. I'm not a huge Bo Nix fan when I've watched him. I actually like McCarthy. I don't know, I think the other 2 though, I'm going to tell you what, Bad Dog. I didn't get a lot of time to watch May. I've seen 2 North Carolina games before this week. And Duke doesn't have a bad team. They're a solid team. They're a decent to good team. Dude, some of the throws that guy was making. I mean, some of the off-platform throws, I see it. I see what people are talking about when it comes to Drake May. He's got a big arm. He improvises very well. He had that 2-point conversion where he made a ridiculous play on a whim. I'm a fan of Drake May. I think he's really good. Penix, I mean, the biggest worry with Penix, I know Bad Dog says you can't worry about injuries. I do. I worry a bit about the injuries. But his arm strength is undeniable. If he doesn't have the strongest arm in this draft class, he's in the top 2 or 3. He's got a big arm. There's no doubt about that. And his mobility, well, he doesn't use it a ton at Washington. He actually does have some mobility. I'm not going to say he's fleet of foot, but he played at Indiana.
He's a scrambler, but he can move around in the pocket.
Well, he played at Indiana. He ran a decent amount. So he's certainly a guy that's capable of using his legs. But, to me, after watching Drake May, I see what people see in him for sure. And, of course, Caleb Williams, we've both been big fans of for a long time.
Yeah, the Penix thing, people can say that he's, first of all, he tore his ACL when he was 18.
Yeah.
And then he came back too soon. Doctor told him not to. He did it anyway, tore it again. And then, he had the shoulder issue. He hasn't been hurt since he's been at Washington. Yeah. And I don't care if a guy's got, this is the whole thing. Oh, he's injury prone. Well, Saquon Barkley didn't have any injuries at Penn State. How many times has he been injured for the Giants? Did Daniel Jones have any injury problems at Duke? No.
Not that I know of.
He's been injured with the Giants. It does not matter. One thing does not lead to another here. Yeah. It can happen at any time. Anytime. Guys Adrian Peterson tore his ACL in college. Yeah. He ended up being pretty good. Then he tore it again in the NFL. And then he came back the next year and almost broke the single season rushing record. So you just never know. But I'm not even saying the Giants. I would take Michael Penix if he was there. Well, that's a damn fact. I love Michael Penix. But even if he doesn't go to the Giants, somebody's taking that guy very early.
Oh, he's definitely going to be in the. I think he's definitely going to be a top 20 pick.
That's what I'm saying. He's a top 10 pick.
He'll probably end up being in the top half of the
Patriots
first round.
will take him. Somebody's taking that guy.
Yeah. No, I think he's definitely going to be a first round pick. No doubt about that. Brian says, I agree. Draft the quarterback, move Neal to guard, use the second rounder to draft another lineman. See if you can get another decent wide receiver, DND tackle later. Yeah, I mean, Brian, I never like to go into a draft saying that we have to draft this position in this spot. It's just so obvious with the first pick what we should do if we're picking where we think we're going to be. Again, there's still 7 weeks to go, but if we're picking where we think we're going to be. After that, like in an ideal world, yeah, I'd like a guard with one of those 2 picks in the second round, but you don't know who's going to become available. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know who's going to drop. But in an ideal world, yeah, I would like a guard and maybe a wide receiver or maybe an edge rusher with one of those picks. We have needs all over. Last year was pretty cut and dry to me what I think we were going to, even though we were picking late and I thought it would be Deonte Banks, but I didn't know it would be him. I thought it would be a corner. I just thought Deonte Banks fit the scheme incredibly well. And if he was there, it made so much sense. But it just made sense that we were going to go corner there because it was a rich cornerback class. And odds are at least 2 or 3 of those guys were going to get to us with our pick. So that's why, but I never like to go into a draft saying we absolutely need to take this position in this round. But obviously, yeah, we know the needs on this team, Brian. It's all over. It's interior offensive line. It's tackle at this point with Neal. It's quarterback. It's wide receiver. It's, on the defensive side, edge rusher, another corner. We're going to lose a Dory. Like, we've got needs all over this roster. So safety, we're probably
why we're in the boat we're in right now.
Yeah.
Somebody said Daniel Jones was hurt at Duke. I don't remember being hurt. I mean, if he was hurt, it was his freshman year. I just didn't think he started his freshman year. He played 36 games his sophomore, junior, and senior year. He played 36 games in 3 years. So he certainly wasn't hurt then. I don't think he started as a freshman. I just don't think he played, but maybe he got hurt his freshman year and didn't play for that reason. I don't know that. I just know the last 3 years there, he didn't miss any time. He wasn't injured like that.
Yeah, not that I recall. I don't watch Duke, but yeah, I don't remember anybody talking about injury problems with Daniel Jones coming into the pros. Chris says Cordell Flott is a guy who I want to see more of. He's played well. Good call. He's definitely shown glimpses at times of a guy that could become a good corner for the Giants. I think he's looking good when he's on the field. I agree, and he's gotten more snaps. Actually, I'm curious, what was the snap count of Cordell Flott? I know he got a little bit dinged up last week because I remember somebody in the chat complaining about that. He got dinged up for a bit, and they brought in Darnay Holmes. But I think he's gotten an increased snap count, excluding the fact that he got hurt last week. Let me take a look at that. Let's see. Cordell Flott. He has gotten... Where is he? There he is. He's gotten... This past week, he only got 35% of the snaps because he got hurt. The week before was 63%. The week before, 58, 74, 66. So he's played at least, outside of a game that he got hurt last week, he's played at least 50% of the snaps every week since week 4. So Cordell Flott has certainly started to see an increased role in this defense. He didn't play a snap the first 3 weeks. Maybe he was dinged up. I don't remember. He might have been hurt at the beginning of the year. But he has certainly seen an increased role as the year has gone along, and I expect that to continue. He's played well, Baddog, and he's got potential. They obviously like the kid. They took him in the 3rd round. So, yeah, that's a perfect example of a young player that you want to see continue to grow as the year goes along.
It's the whole thing. You want to see your guys that you drafted last year. You're a GM. People can sit there and tell me, "Oh, they're not going to do that. They're not going to tank. Guys are playing for jobs." I'm not saying the guys don't have to play hard, but you're the GM and the coach of this team, and your team is 2-8, and you're down to Tommy DeVito as your quarterback.
Yeah,
and you traded away Leonard Williams, and you're going nowhere, and you know you're going nowhere this year. Why wouldn't you want to get your younger guys snaps? And that way you can see what they are. Do they make it at this level? Are they improving? Can we trust them there? Or do we have to replace them or look at a different player in the draft? Whatever. Mm-hmm. That's their job. They need to evaluate talent. You're not going forward with Adoree Jackson. You're not going forward with Darnay Holmes. You're not going forward with those players. So what's the point of playing them? It doesn't really matter. There's going to be a lot of changeover on this team next year. A lot.
Well, it has to be. What bad, Doug? When your team finishes with a top 2 or 3 pick, there's always a ton of changeover.
Right, but I'm saying like a lot of the Gettleman guys come off the books.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So And all those receivers are going to be gone. They're going to go in with Wandale, Hyatt, and
probably a rookie we draft. Probably a rookie.
Right, just someone they draft.
No. Perry, I saw this hypothetical actually being floated about on Twitter. I guess it was first proposed on WFAN. It's an interesting question just because of our situation in New York, and I'll talk about it. Perry says on WFAN today there was some talk about the Bills possibly imploding and the chance that Josh Allen could make his way to our Giants. I think this is fantasy. I don't think they would ever trade Josh Allen. I understand the team's not playing well, but I'll continue with it, and we'll talk about the hypothetical. By trading them our high draft pick and more. It would cost more for a top 5 quarterback. I understand he's not playing good this year. He's still viewed as a top 5 quarterback. If we lose out, what do you think? Thanks. Yeah, I think what makes the hypothetical at least interesting, even though, again, it's not going to happen, is the fact that we have Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen and their ties to Josh Allen and the success that Josh Allen has had with Brian Daboll. And he'd obviously be thrilled to get to play with him again. He said nothing but nice things about Brian Daboll. For me, that's actually a great hypothetical. I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. I've always been a huge Josh Allen fan. There's a money aspect that comes into this as well, though. Josh Allen's already getting paid a ton of money. You get an opportunity to draft a rookie quarterback on a rookie salary, but you have more of a known commodity. As good of a prospect as Caleb Williams is, as good of a prospect as Drake May is, they're question marks. Every quarterback that comes into the NFL is a question mark. There's no such thing as a slam dunk. Josh Allen, you're getting a bona fide top 4, 5, 6 quarterback in the NFL. He's 28 years old. I think I would lean towards Josh Allen, actually, if I'm being honest. But I don't think it would happen. I don't think it's a realistic scenario. But I actually think I would lean towards getting still a very young, elite quarterback. So I think I would go towards more of the proven commodity at the position.
Well, unless you're trading Daniel Jones as part of that trade, there's no way you're affording.
Yeah, for salary purposes, yeah.
You can't do that. So, I mean, I guess it just depends. It's tough because, Josh Allen has a proven. We know what Josh Allen is, and he's definitely one of the most skilled quarterbacks in the league without question. He's a gunslinger. He's tough as shit. You love his game. He's definitely a risk taker. Got a little bit of Brett Favre, and it kind of reminds you of Brett Favre a little bit. That's kind of where. So you can win with him, but you also know he's going to make some mistakes. That's tough, man, because do you really want – because he's 28, right? He'll be 29 next year. That's kind of a guy you'd take if you're like, we can win a Super Bowl. We just need the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the Giants need a lot more than just a quarterback says to me, I don't want to pour. I know they did it to Daniel Jones. I know they gave him a lot of money, but they can get out after 2 years. I don't think you want to pour all that money into that position when you have to put money in other positions. That's just the thing. Everybody's sitting here telling me, the old line sucks. The old line sucks. The offensive line sucks. And if the offensive line ain't fixed Josh Allen, well, how's Josh Allen going to succeed? You ain't going to have any money to put in the offensive line. You're paying Josh Allen.
And you'd be giving up a lot of draft picks to bring him in. So I understand, but I think it's a fun hypothetical. I don't think it's realistic. I definitely understand your argument as well. Draft your quarterback. You're paying him a rookie salary. The thing that I would worry about with Josh Allen, and again, I'm one of his biggest fans. I love him. But I've always thought in the back of my head, whenever anybody's asked me, even when he was in his second year in the league, when I liked him a lot before it was the cool thing to like him, I've always said his style of play reminds me of Cam Newton. And it does. When I watch him play, he's kind of like a hybrid between Cam Newton and Ben Roethlisberger. Like, he's a big guy. He could bounce off tacklers. He could extend plays. He makes throws down the field like Ben did. Same with Cam. And he's obviously a runner like Cam was. And he's a guy that could run you over. He's not like a Daniel Jones, who's more like a sprinter. But I would worry about that because look at Cam Newton. Cam Newton was at the top of the top of the top. He won an MVP award. He was the best quarterback in the NFL. They went to the Super Bowl, and he fell off a cliff when he was like 30, 31, 32 years old. So I would worry with Josh Allen. Is his style of play, as big as his body is, Cam Newton's a big body guy too, is it sustainable? Can you continue that style of play for the rest of your career? And I'll tell you what, this year, they've actually scaled back that style of Josh Allen's game a lot when you watch the Buffalo Bills games. And I know he's been banged up. I think he's got like a hurt shoulder or something. But he's not running the same way that he was last year. They're not using him in that same capacity. So that would be my one thing I'd be really scared about if I made a trade to acquire a player like Josh Allen based off of his age. He may not have the same, because today's day and age, Baddog, with quarterbacks, you could be a great quarterback up till 40. We see it. But I don't know if he has that same lifespan as like the typical quarterback.
Again, I just, I feel like if we felt like we were just a quarterback away, it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? But then again, Buffalo is not going to trade Josh Allen for the 23rd overall draft pick either.
No,
if somebody told me going in before everything went to shit this year, if somebody told me this offseason, like in July, and they said, "Hey, you got a chance to get Josh Allen," I would have been like, "What do you want? What do you want?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I would have thought, "Hey, we got close, won a playoff game, we made it to the Final Four in the NFC." You want? There's nobody not even the biggest Daniel Jones stan could sit here and try to tell you that Daniel Jones is better than Josh Allen. Okay, so if you have the chance to upgrade that position and giving up picks going into the year, I'm all for it. We see how many holes are in this team right now, so I just feel like
I get both arguments. Long term,
you know Josh Allen is. There's no question.
Yeah.
You don't know what any of these guys are. You know how good they are in college. You don't know how good they are in the NFL. I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
There's no such thing as a sure thing in the draft.
No, there's
not. And I think what makes it more, I guess, fun to talk about in terms of the hypothetical is his connection to Dable. We've seen what he could be with Brian Dable. So, but it's not going to happen. It's fun to talk about, though. Lord Commander Manny says, guys, once again, in November, we're talking about the draft. Tell me about it.
I think we were talking about it in October.
We were. We were. I mean, there's been past years where we talked about it sooner than that, but we're there, and it's unfortunate. Bill, man, thank you so much, man. Bill's the man. He says, hate to say it, but I'm for tanking.
Don't blame you. Embrace the tank, people. Embrace it.
We must pick up a franchise quarterback, or we will be having the same discussion in 2024, 2025, 2026.
You're right. That's where I'm at.
I can't argue with it, Bill.
That's where I'm at.
I'm not. Yeah, let's put it this way. You're not going to see me when we do the live streams rooting, like being happy when the team's losing. But at the end of the game, I'm not going to be upset if we lose. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
Right, that's where we are now.
That's the reality of the
situation. Freaking 2-8. Man, come on.
You're 2-8, and you're not 2-8. Like
you're not even competing. You're not even competing.
There's different kinds of 2-8s. There's 2-8s where, like you said, you're competing. You still have all your starters playing, and you say to yourself, okay, maybe, if Jones if he was playing okay, maybe he could have a really good second half and we could win 7 games, and that's something to build up. That's not what we are. Correct. We're a team that Jones has now suffered 2 injuries this year. We're completely banged up. We got
2 serious injuries, mind you.
Serious injuries. So I can't get mad at you, Bill. I can't get mad at you for that.
Like I said, when license plate guy says, I want a top 2 pick, you need to embrace the tank. Yeah. If he's at that point, and like I said, I think he tweeted out another one that said, like, I'm not rooting for them to losing, but I'd rather deal with losing knowing the future is going to be better than dealing with this again. I'm pretty sure he said, if I think the future is going to be better, I'm for it.
I think we're beaten down, and I think what Giants fans want at this point is hope,
change.
I think we went into this year with hope. We were finally excited. We had some
hope
to go into a season, right? You're like, oh, you got Brian Dable. This guy just won Coach of the Year. They're starting to build something. Jones showed progression. Okay, year 2 in a scheme with Brian Dable. Evan Neal's got to get better, right? Like, there was hope.
Jalen Hyatt, JMS.
You want a playoff game,
Darren Waller.
And after this incredible,
we enjoyed it for 6 minutes.
Yeah, and after this incredible regression, it's like we want hope at the end of the day. And what gives this team hope going forward? Unfortunately, because it is unfortunate, because it means we're going to suck for the next couple of years. It's resetting everything and taking the quarterback, and that's just where we are right now.
Yep, hard reset.
Yeah, and Pete says Jonah Williams free agent. Right?
You have to unplug everything.
Yeah. And Pete says Jonah Williams, free agent right tackle. I liked him coming out. He got hurt his rookie year. He didn't play, but I remember liking him coming out in the draft. Since he took him like pick 13 that draft, I liked him. 2012. I don't know how he's done in the pros, to be honest with you. I think he's been pretty good, but I don't know how he's doing this year. Free agent right tackle since it all depends on his market, Pete, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting a quality.
I'd rather do that, Chris. I'd rather draft a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
And not where I'd rather bring in proven linemen instead of taking a shot, because you're like, there's no sure thing. Well, people are like, we got to draft the linemen. We got to do this. Well, we've been drafting linemen, and there's no sure thing, as we've seen with the line. No matter how many people we bring in here, they haven't been good. So if there's no sure thing with a quarterback, there's certainly no sure thing with a lineman. So go out and get one that's proven he could play at this level and help your rookie quarterback, who may have who has a very high ceiling. It's just how close to the ceiling can they get him? And that's on the coaching staff. That's on the GM. Yeah. You got to take the guy, then you got to make it work. You got to give him what he needs. Listen, I did a whole freaking video on how the Giants ruined Daniel Jones. But things I hate Daniel Jones. I've never hated Daniel Jones. I rooted for Daniel Jones. I thought Daniel Jones was going to be the guy. I really did. I thought he'd be good this year. Well, you know what? He's not. He's not the guy. You can't say
Baddog. At the end of the day,
it's over.
We were both as fair as you could possibly be to Daniel Jones. Both as fair as you could possibly be to Daniel Jones. That's the truth.
To change.
Was there sways in our opinions of him? Of course. His play dictated sways in opinion of him. But last year, we both went into the year saying that's just foolish to say start Tyrod Taylor. We watched Daniel Jones play. We watched how he improved. We said he is definitely good enough to bring back. We're not in a position to draft a quarterback. Sign him and bring him back and see what he could become. We saw what he could become. He's continuing to be an injury-prone quarterback. You now have an opportunity to draft what we thought was going to happen last year. I'm going to be honest with you. You got Authentic pulling up like receipts on me from a year ago. Going into last year, I thought we were going to have...
He pulled up on me from 3 years ago. Yeah. So about Justin Fields.
I thought we were going to have a top 8, 9, 10 pick. I didn't think we were going to be good last year. And the guy that I loved was C.J. Stroud. I'm not trying to brag because C.J. Stroud looks great. I loved him. And had we been in this situation last year, I would have been calling for it last year. Jones proved to be worthy of coming back. The team wasn't in a position to draft a quarterback. Now we are. That's just the reality of the situation. I've said it now for 4 or 5 weeks.
You and I last year, going into the year, didn't think Daniel Jones was making it to 2023.
No, I did not.
We thought it was done. We thought it was over. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option. They're moving on. We thought they'd be bad. Not as bad as they were the previous year, but we didn't think they were going to 6-7 wins is kind of where we didn't think they'd be this bad last year. At least I didn't. I thought 6-7 wins was fair. But we did think they were moving on from Daniel Jones. But what we said was Daniel Jones has to earn his job. They're going to make him earn that contract. And the way he earns a contract, Chris, is he plays better. He makes the playoffs and wins a playoff game. Almost positive that's where we were with keeping Daniel Jones. And then both of us agreed, if you're going to sign him, you give him a Derek Carr-like contract where you give him 3 or 4 years and you're out after 2 if it fails. And that is exactly what
they did.
They did. And now you know what? Because that was the whole thing. We give him 2 years to prove himself. If he doesn't, if it goes right to where it went, if we're in the tank and you have a chance to get Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, whoever you like, you're taking him. Daniel Jones
they left all their options open.
Right. And if he played really well, Chris, for 2 years, then you had him for 2 years at a bargain.
And you extend him. So
exactly.
They left all their options open.
They know what they're doing.
A lot of times the right decision doesn't produce the right result. But the signing that they signed him to allowed them to be able to pivot if things completely fell apart. And it did. And now they're probably going to pivot. But It is what it is. Dr. Grape says, I'm starting to think we might not win the Super Bowl this year. Dr. Grape, come on, man. Get back. Stop. Don't quit on your team, man. Seriously. Don't
quit football. Not being so negative, Dr. Grape.
I think we're right in the thick of it. Matt says,
we're losing 27-0 to the Raiders. Guy says, why are you guys so negative? It's hilarious.
And Matt says, drafting Marvin Harrison over May and Williams would be the same mistake of drafting Saquon was.
Correct.
It's not going to happen. And now, if we're in a position where those 2 quarterbacks are off the board and we're picking 4 or 5, I'm not going to be upset if we take Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's I don't like to throw the term generational. I think it's very overrated. I won't even go as far to call Caleb Williams generational. As good of a quarterback as I think he's going to be, he might be generational. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is a generational wide receiver. That's how talented I think that dude is. And it's very rare where I feel a wide receiver should go in the top 3 or 4 picks of a draft. I think he should.
He's going to win the Heisman this year.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. So he'd be a nice consolation prize if we're picking like 5th. I wouldn't be against it at all. But if we're picking top 2, you can't. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. You can't take him over the quarterback. John says, guys, with the NFC quarterback pool is really not that good. Do you think that's part why nobody respects Hurts, Dak, gets more praise, and never made it? I mean, John, I think Hurts is going through the same thing that Dak went through early in his career in terms of people being a little bit reluctant to give him credit. But
wait a minute. Whoa.
When I say that, Baddog, I mean because he had
second in the MVP voting last year, and he had 22 passing touchdowns. What do you mean?
That's true.
What are you talking about? If anything, they overrate him.
The point I was going to
get doesn't get more praise. Dak definitely takes more shit than Jalen Hurts does.
But the point I was going to get at is the same, knock against Dak early on in his career is the same knock when people knock Hurts that they use. He's got everything around him. He's got an incredible supporting cast. But that's all factual and accurate.
I was going to say it's not really a knock. It's just
it's just fact. But listen, we didn't like Hurts. We thought it was a horrible pick.
A lot of Eagles fans didn't like Hurts.
Hurts is proven to be a good quarterback, regardless. Yes. Would he be as good on another team? Probably not. Let's be fair.
But you know what? He doesn't have to be.
He doesn't have to be.
He is.
He's really good, and the Eagles are winning, and he's a big part of it.
So one thing I'm going to say, Johnny, is they got to stop with that damn push because it's going to get him hurt. That's going to hurt him. Eventually, you pile him in to guys shoving him from behind, and if 1,500 pounds shoving him into 1,500 pounds, he's going to get bent the wrong way. You already had it. You got the knee brace off now. But I'm telling you, man, that's going to end up hurting him eventually. They got to get away from that thing. I know they do it better than anybody else because your line is amazing, but he's going to get hurt eventually. It's going to catch up with him. I think they overuse it.
But I don't think that has anything to do with it, though, John, in terms of because there's stronger quarterbacks in the AFC. No. I think Hurts, like Baddog, I mean, people are he's favorite to win the MVP right now. It's him and Mahomes. I think I saw it today in terms of the odds-on favorites right now to win the MVP.
Should be A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill should be up there.
Tyreek Hill should definitely be up there. But listen, I will say, and this is good news for the Giants. You know what's crazy, Baddog? If the Giants draft, let's just say Caleb Williams.
Okay, let's say that.
And he hits.
And let's say that.
Like he becomes a top, like no doubt, top 5-6 quarterback. Like you could say if this guy was on any team, he'd be a top 5-6 quarterback in the league. If he hits to that level, we have the best quarterback in the NFC.
Well, I was going to say, if you're saying that he's a top of 5-6 quarterback in the Giants, then he'd probably be a top quarterback in a better team. That's how good he'd be.
Yeah.
That's how good he'd be.
So the NFC doesn't have a lot of good young quarterbacks. That's true, but I don't think that hurts the praise for Hurts. No pun intended. Peter says, my concern with Penix is Neal protecting his blind side. Yeah, we've talked about this before. Pete,
they'd make the change, I'm sure.
If you believe in a guy at that position, you don't worry about that.
Right, you draft him and then you work on his blind side protector.
Yeah.
You don't think Neal's the guy, you find a guy that you do believe is the guy.
Yeah, or you move Thomas to the right side.
Move Thomas to right tackle.
So you make things work if you believe in the quarterback that he's a franchise guy.
That's their GM's job. He's taking his quarterback. Now it's his job to build around the quarterback and succeed. Because, like I said, I did a whole video on how the Giants destroyed Daniel Jones. Okay, like I was saying earlier before I got off topic, because my mind goes all over the place. The thing I hate Daniel Jones. I've never hated Daniel Jones. I rooted for Daniel Jones. I didn't like the pick. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. Everybody saw it. 10 million people saw my reaction to it. Okay, I didn't like it. I wasn't happy with it. I didn't know anything about Daniel Jones. He played at Duke. Who the hell watches Duke for football? Okay, nobody watches Duke for football. I thought it was BS. I didn't think there was any way they're taking Jones. They took him, and I was behind him. Okay, I said he'd be better than Mitch Trubisky. I said he'd be better than Dak. I said he'd be better than Dwayne Haskins. There's videos out there about this. My face is a lot fatter because I weighed about 60 pounds more. But regardless, I said this. Okay, so I've always been on the Daniel Jones train, but it's just. It's done. I wasn't ever rooting against him, but
you'd be stupid to root against him if you're a Giants fan.
Is like I said, to me, Daniel Jones has always had the physical talent and skills to succeed. He processes too slowly. He does not read defenses well. Okay, he can't go through progressions fast enough behind this offensive line. The Giants, I said in the video, ruined him. If he was in a better situation, I believe Daniel Jones would be a top 10 quarterback. That's where I am. But with the Giants, he can't succeed here because they did not build correctly around him. So and the Giants will take a quarterback in this draft, especially if they're drafting top 3. That's going to happen. When that happens, it is up to Joe Shane and Brian Dable and whoever the hell else, Brandon Brown, whoever
Not
else,
to screw him up.
not to make the same mistakes that they made with Jones. That's what happened to Daniel Jones. Okay, I'll sit here.
Carl said it. Carl said it. It was a great point he brought up from within this season, how they screwed up his confidence by leaving him in the Dallas game. And I said to myself, wow, I didn't even think about that game. I more so thought about this is just stupid to leave him in because he gets hurt and you're not showing respect.
That's why I asked, Carl, what did you think about that? Like, what was the reasoning behind it? Because I wouldn't know.
And that's just a small instance in the overall, tenure that he's had as a New York Giant. When you keep flipping head coaches and that destroys a quarterback's confidence. So they cannot screw up the next quarterback the same way that they screwed up Jones and the same way that they screwed up Eli the second half of his career. It can't happen. And that's up to Joe.
I just want to say something because I know Fabian is a gigantic Daniel Jones stan, and the guy actually sat there and tried to use a car analogy about building the Giants or whatever. Okay. I know you're a gigantic Daniel Jones stan. I get it. And he says, so Caleb struggling against top-ranked defenses can be fixed. How did Daniel Jones do in college? How did he do in college against any competition? So you're going to tell me a guy that played as many games as Caleb Williams at 36, that's exactly where they are, that had 52 touchdowns and 29 interceptions is better than a guy with 92 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and a Heisman Trophy? Is this where we're going with this? You want to talk about Caleb Williams not producing against good teams in college football? When did Daniel Jones produce against any team in college football?
Granted, he played for Duke.
Did you watch him against the 2-10 Virginia Cavaliers where he threw 5 interceptions? Is that the game you're talking about? That's not a top defense.
Listen.
Who the hell did he beat? When he say, nobody good around him? Caleb Williams plays in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is one of the most loaded conferences in football.
You could watch Caleb Williams play, and he's better than Daniel Jones. I don't need the stats. I don't need any of that. That's not a knock on Daniel Jones. Like Caleb Williams is incredible in terms of his potential, at least.
But that's my point. What are we talking about this? Oh, you're talking about a mid-Duke team versus a stacked USC team. USC is not stacked. You don't know anything about college football. Just stop. Tell me you don't watch college football without telling me you don't watch college football.
Gundy says,
now we're going to blame the talent around you. So why the hell did they draft him? Why did the Giants draft him if the Giants were picking 6th overall? If he couldn't do something on a mid-Duke team, why would the Giants draft him to a shitty Giants team? How does that work? Wrap my head around it. Make me understand why you're doing that. Now it's, he had no talent at Duke, but Caleb's got all the talent in the world. Just watch Caleb Williams play.
Caleb Williams actually, when you factor in the competition he's going up against, doesn't have a lot of talent on that USC team.
No, he does.
His offensive line is awful. His defense is awful.
The defense is terrible. That's got nothing to do with him,
in
but
comparison to the other teams within that conference. So he's outmatched most of those games when he goes up against those teams. Gundy says,
I don't understand who really does ball out against top defensive teams. Who does that? Who's making a living off of playing against top teams, defensive teams? Who makes a living off of that? Because he had one bad game against Notre Dame. He said the man's thrown 13 interceptions in his entire collegiate career. 3 of them against Notre Dame. 3 of them were in that game.
Caleb Williams is going to be great. Like I again, there's never a sure thing, but I would bet he's going to be great. He's got elite potential. Gundy says, would you rather
turnover machine? Yeah, 13 picks. That's a lot of turnovers. 13 interceptions. Done. You're right.
Gundy says, would you rather have DJ or Sam Howell? I'm neither. And my answer to you, Gundy, is neither. I would rather have either Caleb Williams or Drake May. I would rather have the opportunity to draft a guy that I felt like could be a franchise-altering quarterback. Neither one of those guys, to me, at this point, are guys that I view as franchise quarterbacks. I know Sam Howell's putting up numbers this year. He's playing well. And this year, you'd have to say Sam Howell. But my answer in the grand scheme of things is I wouldn't want either one of them to be my long-term answer at the quarterback position.
No, but I'd rather have Sam Howell. If you're asking
Yeah,
Sam Howell don't have 2 neck injuries and a torn ACL.
Yeah.
Well, I'd take Sam Howell.
But
I'd take a guy that can stay healthy.
But I would rather be in our position that we are is in regards to the quarterback position. If we're going to be picking top 2, then have either one of those guys.
Yeah.
Black Canary says, hey, Big Blue Brothers, are we cheering for Carolina to get the first pick? They'll trade it. No, they won't because Chicago has the pick. And
Correct.
We have the draft picks. Do it, Shane. Yeah, so Black Canary, I understand where you're coming from because they drafted, what's his
Bryce
name?
Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young from Alabama. But no, they don't have the pick. That's going to go down as one of the worst trades of all time. If Bryce Young continues to trend the way that he's trending, Chicago's got that pick. So, and they will absolutely replace Justin Fields if they have the first pick. So they're not trading out of that pick. So you're rooting for Carolina to win if you want the Giants to get that first pick. The good news is, Bad Dog, that Carolina has no incentive to lose. So I guess that's a good thing. Like down the stretch,
yeah,
they're not
tanking
going to be
them no favors. And you were talking about Chris, how you want to win games for confidence going forward. He's a rookie. So you want them to build confidence going forward behind him. So yes, they do have incentive to win. Because
it's kind of like Eli's rookie year, where we won that last game, and you were like, okay, that's something to build off of going into next year.
We didn't have our first round pick in 2005 because we traded it for Eli, and they ended up with Sean Merriman with our pick. But so there was no reason for the Giants to try to lose.
So you hope that Bryce Young starts to put it together the last 4 or 5 games.
Just a couple games.
Yeah. G Forever says, thank you guys for still doing this with 5 to 6 years of miserable football. We had one good year last year. I wouldn't call it great, but it was a good year. Hopefully we get our guy in April. We had ourselves in this situation in 2004. Well, 2004 is a little bit different because we had to trade up, but we still had a high draft pick. That team was also much more complete than this one, if we're being fair, because they made the playoffs in 2002 and they were actually a really good team. But it was a similar situation. The thing is, we're not going to have a guy that's going to force his way to the Giants. But, similar. Right. And we got our quarterback, and we took off. And hopefully that's what happens this time around. That's what we're all hoping for, man. Listen, at the end of the day, we could talk about all the other things that this team needs to do, and they do. And there's a lot of things that are going to decide, regardless of the quarterback that we draft, whether or not that quarterback's going to succeed or not for this football team. But ultimately, Joe Shane and Brian Dable they're gonna live and die with the quarterback they pick. This is a franchise altering pick that we're gonna have coming up in April. If it is a miss, we're gonna have a new GM and head coach in 2025.
Without question.
That's what's gonna happen. So their jobs depend on making sure they hit on this quarterback pick. It is such an important pick for this Giants football team coming up in April, if indeed we pick a quarterback. But obviously we all think that's happening.
They're going to quarterback. There's no way they don't. There's no way they do not take a quarterback.
Yeah.
There's no way they don't take a quarterback. But I've seen that Caleb Williams thing floating around all over Twitter. And I just, like I said, who the hell makes a living playing against really good defenses? Show me a quarterback whose numbers are better against.
Well, it was the same thing with J.J. McCarthy. Like, people were picking on him last week when they played Penn State. Listen, Penn State's got one of the best defenses in the country. The game plan going in, the game plan for the Michigan Wolverines is not to increase J.J. McCarthy's draft stock. The game plan
win.
The game plan for the Michigan Wolverines is to win the football game. And if your biggest strength as a team is your offensive line and your running game, and you're going up against an elite defense, if you're able to run the ball successfully like they were able to do, you continue to run the football. So, when you go up against elite defenses, a lot of times the game plan is not going to be to throw the football all over the field. You play to win the game, as Herm Edwards likes to say.
But that's what I mean. Like, I don't get that. I don't understand where people are coming from. You don't succeed. Pat Mahomes, the Texas Tech Red Raiders are terrible with Pat Mahomes there. And Pat Mahomes had he had at least one game where he threw 5 interceptions. The time I knew Mahomes was ridiculous. I always say this, one of the best games I've ever seen was Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield versus Pat Mahomes. It was incredible. Oklahoma won 66-59, and Mayfield had like 6 passing touchdowns, and Pat Mahomes had 800 total yards between rushing and passing.
Holy crap! Wow,
sick. It is one of the best college games I've ever watched. It was that was something else. I didn't know who Pat Mahomes was till that game. Then
That
he
put
was
him on the map.
Yeah, I knew who he was then.
Yeah.
Talking about Pat Mahomes, I'm like, the Red Raiders suck because they're a bad team. So I didn't know he was any good. I watched him. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah.
And I think Gundy donated twice by accident, man. Gundy, man, I appreciate the incredible generosity. But yeah, I mean, if I'm answering truthfully this year, Sam Howell obviously is playing much better than DJ. But my answer to you overall is I would rather have the opportunity to draft one of these two guys we're going to be drafting in April. Mark says G-Men Hope was shorter than a Liz Taylor marriage. Well, that's the way it usually works, Mark. We had Hope in 2017 also. Same thing. We
had some hope though, Mark. Like that felt good for an offseason. I mean, we had a few months of feeling good actually.
It was nice. It felt nice for a change.
We felt pretty good from January to about 8 minutes ago in the first quarter against Dallas.
We forgot what it was like to have a under 500 record for a full year and an offseason, and then reality struck.
It was the clock struck 12 and the slippers, whatever, the horse and carriage turned back into pumpkins and mice. And Cinderella.
Let's talk about Dable real quick, because we're talking about, I think you just said Dable finally has some adversity. Are you buying into any of this pressure because you're seeing, I think, Pat the Rat said it, Pat Leonard, and you've seen people say, Pat the Rat, I call him, and a lot of people call him that on Twitter. You've seen people start to say that there's going to be growing pressure that Dable could potentially lose his job. And listen, the recent track record does say the Giants fired their coaches after 2 years. They fired McAdoo after 2 years. They fired Shermer after 2 years. They fired Judge after 2 years. And a lot of people will bring up, well, this is eerily similar to what happened to Joe Judge. Brought a lot of hope the first year. Second year, things went haywire. Quarterback got hurt. The team bombed. They got a high draft pick, and they got rid of him. Do you think there is any chance that we can move on from Dable?
Pat Leonard. We call him Pat the Rat, quite frankly, because he's a little bit of a rat. The rats, Chris, they run along the thing. They got the tails. They're really gross little creatures. They're disgusting. We don't have rats up here in upstate New York. We have mice. But, Pat Leonard, we call him Pat the Rat, frankly. No.
Yeah.
Losing his job. And this is why. We talked about this with Joe Judge. Shermer was kind of intriguing since Shermer's the one that wanted Daniel Jones. And Shermer had 1 year with Daniel Jones, and he was out. But Gettleman was fired. You're not forcing Judge on your new GM. So everybody was wiped clean. Joe Shane handpicked Brian Dable, and if he got fired, then Joe Shane would have to go, whoops, I screwed that up.
Yeah.
And then who's going to go, I'll take the job for Joe Shane, knowing that I might get fired in 2 years.
That too.
No way, Chris. There's no way Brian Dable is getting fired. I still believe in Coach Dable. Still believe me. I know I did the parody press conference because it needs to be done. We need to laugh a little bit. This has been a horrible season. But I don't think, again, I question some of the things that's going on with these players, like Evan Neal saying the things he said. McKinney hasn't shut up. McKinney ain't going to be here, so it really doesn't matter. I don't like the players celebrating, like Jihad Ward making, I got pissed off when he pounded his chest, or, when Lawrence Cager's dancing when you're down 28-0. I don't get that. You're getting your ass kicked. Shut up and go back to the bench. If you're competing or you're winning, fine, have fun. But when you're getting blown out, and what are you celebrating? Like, I don't understand that. But no, there's no way. Dable, and especially if you draft the rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Well, that's my biggest thing. That's my biggest thing. And yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't even think there's a chance. And if there was, I'd flip out. I'd honestly have a big rant video if they fired Brian Dable. Because
the whole thing now is, they're going to fire Dable and bring in Bill Belichick.
And I don't see Joe Shane doing it, because he'd basically be admitting complete failure.
Yeah,
like, not only, like, we could talk about how it was the right decision, even though it wasn't the right result with Daniel Jones. It's still going to be perceived, rightfully so, with the way that he played and the amount of money he's making, that it was a bad contract, obviously, by Joe Shane. So not only now am I admitting that I completely screwed up by signing Daniel Jones, and I'm resetting the rookie quarterback clock. But now I'm going to admit that the coach I hired, I'm going to have to fire after 2 years that I handpicked. Like, it would be a complete admission that he has been a complete disaster.
Correct.
2 years through as the general manager.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. And then if you're listening, and I don't think there's many people out there, there's a handful that might want to move on from Brian Daboll. If you're listening, you tell me right now a head coach candidate that's available that for a fact would be better suited to mold a young quarterback than Brian Daboll. Because at the end of the day, right now today, Bad Dog, I don't know what we're going to need in a head coach in 3 or 4 years. In 3 or 4 years, we may need a different type of coach. We may need a Mike Tomlin. But right now, the most important thing for this team is making sure that young quarterback is as successful as possible. And with Brian Daboll, you have a proven track record. You had a guy that got a ton out of Tua in Alabama. You had a guy that went to Buffalo and molded Josh Allen, who was a project quarterback. You had a guy who last year got by far the best results out of Daniel Jones since he's been in the NFL. That should be the objective right now for the Giants. And you've got a guy with a record that has had success at the quarterback position. I'm not throwing that away going into
there's one guy that I could think of that would come in and do that. That's Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley, they don't know how to recruit defense. Lincoln Riley doesn't care about defense. So Lincoln Riley's job in the NFL as a head coach would not be to recruit defense. You're not recruiting. You have a GM and a defensive coordinator that go out and scout your defense. Lincoln Riley would have a say, but he's not going to make that decision. I'm not saying Lincoln Riley is going to be the head coach of the Giants, but that is a guy that I do believe at some point will be a head coach in the NFL because he's not going to have to recruit. What's that?
Yeah. I'm surprised he hasn't been. He's had tons of success at the quarterback.
I think he will eventually.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens once Caleb is gone, what USC becomes. Because listen, I mean, Lincoln Riley, you think of the guys he coached. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, they both won Heisman's. Jalen Hurts, he was third, I think, runner-up, right? They always won the Big 12. I mean, and Caleb Williams won a Heisman. I mean, 3 of 4 quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley's coached have won the Heisman Trophy. That's pretty sick, right?
Yeah.
So if there's one guy that you might, if you ever did fire Coach Daboll and said, okay, I want to bring in a guy that's going to mold a rookie, that could be your guy.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. But there's the one when you said name one guy that could do that, or, that would be a better, that was the only guy I could think of, just because being a Sooner fan, I know Lincoln Riley's track record with quarterback. His record with defense is ass. He don't believe in defense. He never has. He never has. That has not changed moving west from Oklahoma to SoCal.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have to worry about that in the NFL. So there's the one guy I think that, again,
that's fair. That's fair. But my overall point is the Giants hired Daboll due in large part to the fact that the guy has had tremendous success as an offensive play caller molding quarterbacks.
He's staying here. If anything, Chris, they'll probably give him more. He'll probably be calling the plays. I think
he's going to call the plays.
And that's going to give him even more responsibility. And that's going to tie him even more to the quarterbacks. So there's no way Daboll's going anywhere. No way.
Yeah, no way. There's no way. It would be a monumental mistake. Abe says, if we're out of the top 2, do we take a quarterback? Depends on several variables, Abe. It depends. One, it depends on how high they feel about the next quarterback. How high do they feel about a Penix or a McCarthy or whoever? Are they worthy of a top 3 or 4 pick? At the end of the day, Abe, the worst thing you could do is reach on a quarterback. So if you don't feel they're worthy of that, you have 2 options. If you still want to go quarterback, if you believe in, you try to trade up, but you can't force those teams to trade. I see people on Twitter say all the time, well, just trade up. If you pick at 5, just trade up. Let's get up to 2 and let's get May. Bad Dog, why didn't Jacksonville trade down when they had the first pick with Trevor Lawrence? Why didn't name a quarterback?
Houston, why didn't Houston trade?
Why don't these teams trade down? When you have an opportunity to draft an elite quarterback, you don't trade down. If you need
Carolina traded up to get theirs.
They did, but it was with a team that didn't wanted to stick with Justin Fields. But
no, I'm saying though, like they wanted their guy. Yeah. Chicago thought they had their guy.
Right.
And Chicago kind of did what the Giants did, where they said, listen, we're going to ride it out with Justin Fields again on a rookie deal where he's not getting a ton of money. And if he blows, we're going to suck and we're going to get a quarterback.
And they
not even expecting Carolina to be as bad as they are. I mean, Chicago could walk out of this draft conceivably with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr.
They're going to probably.
They could conceivably
Which is wild. That's wild. That's going to happen.
And you know what'll be funny? They'll still not be good because they're the Bears. I don't know what's going on there, but anyways,
have never had a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, so somehow it just won't work for them. Some teams are just cursed.
Like if Caleb Williams goes there, like in the back of my head, I'm like, he's probably going to fail because it never works for them. He says, if we're out of the top 2, do we take a quarterback? Yeah, we just kind of talked about that. Not sure anyone is worth the top 10. I'd rather someone else take Nix in the second. I like him this year. He's approved. For me,
I don't like Nix.
This is just the way I feel, Abe. And there are certainly valid arguments to say what you said, where you could take a quarterback in the second round. The Eagles did it. It works sometimes. For me, if you don't believe strongly enough to take a quarterback with your first pick, for me, this team has too many holes. I'm filling in if I'm not taking a quarterback with our first round pick, I'm not taking a quarterback in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Correct.
That's me. If you're going to take a quarterback, Joe, you take him at the top of the draft. That's my outlook. I respect people's opinions that say get value, take a bonus. People are saying Jaden Daniels. And I understand Jaden Daniels has been mocked to the second round. With the output that he had this past week, and when you look at his raw physical skill set, he ain't going in the second round. I'm telling you right now, a guy with his arm strength and his speed, people said the same thing.
He's also 6'4" and 21 years old.
People said the same thing last year about Anthony Richardson. I remember it when the mocks were around this time. Oh, the Giants could just get Anthony Richardson at 25. You went 4 because people saw the raw physical tools. So if these guys are worth taking, they're probably not going to get to the second round. That's my outlook. Like, it's the most important position. If you have a chance to do it, you take them early. If you're not taking a quarterback there, I'd rather just continue to build the roster.
Yeah, facts.
That's just the way I look at it. Let's see. And Peter says, what do you make of the Tony Pauline report today saying Wink and Kafka gone next year? One, what credentials does Tony Pauline have? I know he works for like the Football Network, but does he really have any intel or insider information? I don't know. This came from the Kafka camp. I mean, here's what I'll say, Bad Dog. I think Kafka is going to get fired, or I think he's at least going to lose play calling duties. And I don't even know if I love that idea because I don't think this is really Kafka's fault. And I do think he could be a good offensive play caller. Last year, we had one of the best red zone offenses in football with very limited talent. This year, we've been banged up, and it's been a disaster. And they tried to open up the playbook, and Daniel Jones didn't thrive, and Evan Neal didn't progress as a blocker. So I don't know if I'm even in love with the idea of firing Kafka. I know that's the popular thing to say right now, but I think he's going to be fired because somebody's going to have to fall on the sword. The team's 2-8. We're going to finish with a top 2 or 3 pick. You can't fire Dable.
Bobby Johnson's going to be gone.
No, he's gone for sure. But if you're Dable, and we talked about this at the top of the stream, and your job is going to be dependent on the quarterback that you draft. If I'm Dable, I'm calling the plays. I'm saying, listen, it's put up or shut up time for me. If this quarterback doesn't produce and this team doesn't start playing well, the honeymoon period's over, baby. We better start winning football games, and this quarterback will better look as good as possible. And what got me here was my ability to be a good play caller. I'm putting the onus on my shoulders. So that's just the way I would feel if I was Brian Dable. So if I feel that way, what does that leave Kafka? Kafka's not going to want to get his play calling duties revoked. That's going to hurt his opportunity to get a job somewhere else. I think they're going to part ways. I think we're going to lose Kafka. And as far as Wink goes, I don't want to lose Wink. I think Wink is a good defensive play caller, but I don't have an argument to keep him either if they fire him. That's the way I look. Like the defenses look good at times this year for sure. And I'm not. Well, it's inconsistent, but I don't even necessarily want to blame Wink, Bad Dog, for the way the defense has looked the last 2 weeks because the offense is putrid, and the defense is probably just like, I'm done. We're done.
Yeah, they quit.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't even want to
we're not winning with DeVito, so to hell with it.
Yeah. So I don't even want to blame Wink for the defensive output the last couple of weeks. But in a lost season where you win 2 or 3 games, I can't argue if they fire the coordinators. How can you?
No, you can't get emotionally attached people. That's why when people are like, got to keep Saquon Barkley, why? What do we won with Saquon Barkley here? We won as much as we won with Daniel Jones here. Why do we need to keep Saquon Barkley? Why is that a need? Why do you have to pump all that money into that position?
Yeah.
Why is that? You can draft a running back. You don't need to keep Saquon Barkley. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Saquon Barkley. But I agree with you, Chris. If I'm Brian Dable and I'm getting the quarterback I want, and I know that my job is very dependent on that performance, I'm not putting my job in someone else's hands. I want that responsibility to say, yep, if he sucks, that's completely on me. And if he is good, that's completely on me. That's the way I would look at it too. I don't see Kafka coming back.
Yeah.
I don't see Bobby Johns coming back. I don't see T-Mac coming back. I do think Wink comes back because he is a veteran. And you've mentioned this before. If Dable's going to call the offense, he's got more responsibility doing that. He's not going to have time to worry about the defense. Wink is a guy you say, the guy knows what he's doing. He's been in the league forever. Yeah. You don't really have to oversee what Wink does. I mean, you'll have an input on it, but Wink's going to run the defense.
I don't want Wink to get fired. But it's one of those situations where I won't scream if they do it. But I don't want Wink to get fired. That especially like you said, if Dable's calling the plays, I want an experienced defensive coordinator. And this is a guy that's worked with these guys. I would prefer Wink comes back as the defensive coordinator, but it's not something that I could scream if they fire him. If the team wins 3 games and the defense
I'm not going to be sitting here and go, oh, that was a travesty. I'm going to get rid of Wink. I understand.
Yeah. And Brian says, you've both inspired me to watch more college ball. I don't know if you should give us that credit, Brian, or you should give the Giants that credit.
Right, give it to the Giants.
Yeah,
a lot of Giants fans watch Caleb. I said the USC ratings, those ratings went way up.
Yeah.
Because people that never watched college football all of a sudden started looking at Caleb Williams and Drake May, because there's all that talk about the guys that do watch college football and said, this is our quarterback, and everybody else just jumped on board. And all these people, these Johnny-come-latelys that just started watching Caleb Williams, and they saw the game against Notre Dame, and they go, oh, this guy's no good. And you see, he certainly missed the rest of his career, and he made a judgment on one game.
Funny. I just find it funny when it comes to Caleb Williams, because and I love college football. I've grown to like it a ton over the last 3 years or so. I've watched a lot more.
I get more than NFL football.
Yeah, I love college football. I just find it funny. We were talking about Caleb Williams 2 years ago. We were talking about Caleb Williams 2 years ago on this channel with no thought process that he'd ever be a Giant.
Correct.
And we were talking about how much
have been my guys for years. This is no.
And we were talking about how much we love the guy. And when we talked back then, when there was no possibility of the Giants drafting him, realistically,
right,
we got no pushback. No. Everybody in the chat's like, "Oh, he's great. He's awesome. He's great." Now,
right.
Now you get pushback. Like Caleb Williams
after he won a Heisman Trophy.
Caleb Williams is great. Caleb Williams is great. You can't hate on the guy. He's great.
Oh, well, listen, that's the other thing. When I talked about how great Caleb Williams was at Oklahoma, I certainly never thought the Giants have an opportunity to draft him. And now that opportunity is within reach, now I salivate. And people can sit there and go, oh, USC quarterback. Listen, I'm one of those guys. I've never liked USC quarterbacks. Never. I didn't like Sam Darnold. I didn't like Matt Leinart. I didn't like Mark Sanchez. I didn't like any of those guys. They all turned out to suck ass. And I don't like Ohio State quarterbacks. It's a fact. I never have. CJ Stroud proved me wrong there. I don't like Florida quarterbacks. We don't know what Anthony Richardson's going to be. He got hurt, so we don't know what he's going to be. But I don't – there is certain schools that I just like. I don't really like the program. I don't like the quarterbacks. But Caleb Williams, to me, is not a USC quarterback. He's an Oklahoma quarterback. He was recruited by Lincoln Riley. He went with Lincoln Riley to USC. To me, he's an Oklahoma guy. That's the way I look at him. And I don't give a damn where he plays his college football. That guy can freaking play on Mars.
And Eric said, listen, I watched USC games the last 2 years anytime I could because of him. And it wasn't because I thought he'd be a Giant.
You want to talk about putting asses in the seats? He would be our most exciting player since we had Odell Beckham.
He'd be more exciting than Odell Beckham.
He's going to.
Yeah, because
he's the quarterback. He's going to handle it every play.
Yeah.
But you know what? People are like, oh, I would take Josh Allen. The funny thing is, people are like, I'll take Josh Allen. He turns the ball over a lot, so you can live with that. But, Caleb Williams, he fumbled the ball in college. I don't want him. He's turnover through 13 interceptions his entire collegiate career. But he turns it over way too much. I don't want him. But I'll take Josh Allen for that pick. Come on.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't mind quarterbacks who turn the ball over if they produce points. I mean, I've always
points.
Yeah, I've always been. Eli Manning turned the ball over. He produced points. We won games. There are certain quarterbacks that are able to, and obviously the team comes into this effect with this as well. You need a good defense and everything else, but there are certain quarterbacks that they take a lot more shots, and with more shots come turnovers.
Favre won 3 MVPs, right? And
Josh Allen,
the world in interceptions, most interceptions of any quarterback in the history of football.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure people would have lived with Brett Favre as their quarterback. And I shout out to Brett Favre for his last pass as a Packer going to Corey Webster.
And Eric says Jim Caldwell for offensive coordinator, 2 rings. For me, it's Dable. I mean, maybe Dable won't have that in title, but I really think Dable's going to be calling the plays next year, Eric. But we'll find out.
They play football on Friday next week?
Yeah, the Jets are.
I just saw it up there.
Yeah, I think they play the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
I think they play the Dolphins. Forbes, what's going on? Giants fan since 84. Watched every season, but I gave up this season. It's just so embarrassing to watch how bad we are now. Keep up the good work. We appreciate it, Forbes, and I can't blame you. Listen, this team is definitely beating a lot of people down, and we understand it.
Yeah.
Mr. Milan says there were 6 quarterbacks better than Jones, so don't worry. What, in this draft? I don't want to just draft a quarterback that I feel is better than Jones, though.
Yeah, you want to draft a quarterback that's you feel like you can win a Super Bowl with. That's your goal there.
If I'm drafting a quarterback early, that's not my credentials. If I'm Joe Shane, it's not. Well, this guy's better than Jones, so I'm drafting him. No, that you fall into a trap when you do that. That's how you reach on a quarterback. I want to draft a quarterback that I feel could be elite. If you're drafting a quarterback that early, you better be sold that this guy could be a top 3, 4, 5 quarterback in the league.
Absolutely.
So I'm not just drafting a guy because I feel he might be better than Jones. I'm not doing that. No, that's just my mindset, at least. And Mark Sullivan says Northwestern announced their head coach going forward, which was where everyone thought Kafka was going. So odds are greater he may stay. Well, if we fire him, he's got no choice but to go. But
the other thing is, Mark, never read into that because there's very possible they say this just because they don't want to. I mean, I don't know how Northwestern's doing this year, if they're bowl eligible. I don't watch Northwestern football, so I couldn't tell you. But maybe they just don't want to make that change or announce that change in the middle of the year. At the end of the year, they might say, "No, you're done." I mean, we didn't know Joe Judge was going to be fired because there was rumors out there that he was coming back. And I remember making a video going, "I can't do Joe Judge again. I can't do another year with Joe Judge."
Yeah.
And then they got rid of him. So we'll see what happens. Like when the year's over, head coach may stay. May not. I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into it. What reports are? You can take them with a grain of salt. Maybe he will be back. Maybe they move on. I don't really know.
Yeah. But once again, thank you to everybody for being here. I can't believe we almost have 500 people in here during the darkest times. We appreciate all you guys. HHC Lunar says, thoughts on Drake May? Is he going to be good? Again, quarterback's incredibly unpredictable. Caleb Williams is a 50-50 chance, if we're being honest. As much as we love him and as good as his tools are, he's 50-50. A lot of it comes down to situation, his drive to be great when you get to the pros. Like, there's variables. His injuries, we've seen that now with Jones. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. So there is never a sure thing at any position when it comes to the draft, but especially the quarterback position, because there's so many variables that go into what makes a quarterback successful. But do I think he could be? Yeah, I think Drake May's got everything you want in a quarterback. I mean, Drake May, just his tools, like, dude, he looks like Justin Herbert to me. He looks really good. Like, he's got a big arm. He could move. He's tall. He's really good. And his improv skills are what really stood out to me in the last game when I watched against Duke. Like, his ability to think on the fly. So, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Drake May. But again, you don't know.
Right. I just wish Drake May played stiffer competition.
Yeah.
The ACC sucks.
But to be fair, so did Trevor Lawrence. He played in the ACC.
Yeah, but Clemson, well, I mean, Clemson was a really good team. But the ACC was better back then.
Yeah.
It is now. I just wish he played. Like, they didn't play Clemson this year. Like I said, they played Campbell. They played Duke. They played Georgia Tech. They actually lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to Virginia. I mean, I'm not saying Drake May can't be great, but much like J.J. McCarthy, I'm like, I want to see him play against tougher opponents. Like everybody's all over Caleb Williams about his, numbers against top 25 defenses, but Caleb Williams has played against those defenses. Drake May hasn't. J.J. McCarthy hasn't. So who really knows? I like I said, I would imagine Drake May playing the bowl game. Maybe he won't. A lot of these guys, when they're
probably not, to be honest,
themselves in a draft, they don't play because they don't want to injure themselves. I mean, they're not stupid. Like people can get mad at them for, you're quitting on your team. Listen, man, what's the hell is one more game in their collegiate career? If I'm a college football player and I know I'm going top 2 or 3, top 3 in the draft, and I'm going to make $35 million, whatever the hell they get, I'm not chancing my future for a meaningless bowl game. National championship, different story, but I'm not going to sit there and go, well, if I get hurt in this game and I tear my ACL and then I'm out for a year and nobody drafts me and then my draft stock drops and I cost myself a ton. No way. You play your whole career to get to that point. So I get it why they would do that. So maybe he won't play, but
if I was Drake May, I would not play in the bowl game. Playoffs is a different story.
I just wish they played somebody, but I don't know. Let me see who they play going forward. I think each team only has one more game. I don't think they play NC State.
If I was Drake May, I wouldn't play in that bowl game.
Well, they do play Clemson. They play Clemson next week.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be Clemson's not really good this year, but that's going to be probably the best team they played.
Same thing with Caleb Williams. I don't think he'll play in the bowl game either.
I mean, Duke's not horrible.
No.
Georgia Tech is awful.
But you'll get J.J. McCarthy in a bowl game. He'll be in the playoffs.
Yes, but Michael Penix could be in the playoffs too.
Yeah, but I don't think the top. I'd be surprised if they play in the bowl game.
Caleb Williams ain't gonna. He's not gonna play.
Why would you? Why would you jeopardize that?
It ain't even a New Year's Six bowl. It ain't even it's not even a good bowl game.
Yeah.
So you're not playing in a New Year's Six bowl. There's no reason.
No.
For you to play. The reason you play in those games is because you're trying to increase your draft stock. You're trying to have a show.
Yeah, if the national spotlight, like C.J. Stroud last year for me, and I was always a big Stroud fan, but in that playoff game, he was insane. And I think that helped his draft stock. So, yeah, I think in the big spotlight in the playoff games, there's incentive. There's definitely
the way he played against Georgia. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, well, I mean, he tore Georgia up. He
played out of his mind in that game. So, I think it could help a guy, like a J.J. McCarthy if he has a big bowl game in the playoffs. Or
right.
So I see the incentive there. But, yeah.
Or J.J. Daniels, for instance, another guy.
Yeah. But for like an ordinary bowl game, if you're Drake May or you're Caleb Williams, you're already going top 3, top 4.
Yeah.
Why are you going to jeopardize?
You have nothing to gain by playing in that game.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit there and play in the, the Shop Vac Bowl. Like, who gives a damn?
Yeah. You just have to give next year's quarterbacks a shot. I mean, that's all we can do as fans want back. We're all going to have our opinions, but at the end of the day, it's a coin toss. And you just got to hope whoever Shane and Dave will pick is the guy that works out. We all scream.
These guys are question marks. We don't know, but we do know what Daniel Jones is. We do know. It's been 5 years. We know what he can do, what he can't do.
Yeah.
So you can sit there and go, well, there's no guarantee. That's correct. There is no guarantee, but we're guaranteed to know what Daniel Jones is. We know what he is.
It's like having a losing lottery ticket and being like, well, I shouldn't buy another scratch. I shouldn't get this next scratch off when you don't know if you're going to win or not because I have a losing ticket. I'm just going to sit here and sulk. No, you somebody gives me a scratch off for free. I'm going to scratch it to see if I won. It's the same thing. Like we have a losing lottery ticket right now. That's just a fact. That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Let's get another scratch off and see if we can win $1,000. So that's where we are. And you hope that the next quarterback hits.
Correct.
Let's see.
Correct, Armando.
We also have a high second-round pick in a very top-heavy draft class.
I
mean, I wouldn't be surprised, Burrow, and again, who knows? But I would not be surprised if
they took him and moved into the first
round, back into the first round, mid-first, whatever it be, take both of your second-round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if we trade up into the first round with the extra draft capital.
Maybe the Giants decide, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go way outside the box. Depending on where they pick, and they say, we'll take Michael Penix, and then we'll trade back up into the first round and get Odunze. We'll get his wide receiver and bring the wide receiver in with Michael Penix and give him some familiarity right away. You want to talk about building up a quarterback's confidence? That's the way you would do it. But I haven't looked into what. Listen, I haven't really gotten into looking at the. I just look at the quarterbacks because it's most likely where we're going, and we all know who. And we're going to pick low enough anyway that if we don't, it's probably going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So we know what he is too.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And No Ma'am says Baddog Clemson has a number 6 ranked defense in football. That's a good test for me.
Wow, are they really? Because I know they haven't been very good, like record wise, but that will be a good test. Like I said, I didn't think they played Clemson, so when I saw it, that will be a good test. It'll definitely be one that I watch without question. Just to see him play against a better. Now that Duke's defense wasn't terrible either, but it's Duke.
Duke's actually not bad though. They're not.
I know they have the same record as Clemson, but it's Clemson. Like you know what I mean? Like they have a reputation. And I didn't realize that they were that high as far as like, I know Notre Dame was like 9th when they went against Caleb Williams. So that'll be a good test for Drake May.
And Eric says Arch Manning. Now, not J-Tech says it's the number 6 defense in the ACC. So I don't know if it's number 6 in the country. Well, if it's ACC, that's a different story.
That's a different story.
Yeah. Eric says Arch Manning in 2025, keep it in the family. Is he even draft eligible in 2025? I think it's 2026. Maybe it is.
He's not draft eligible. No, he's a freshman this year. So no.
Yeah, you're right. 2025. He's eligible in 2025.
Arch Manning hasn't even thrown a pass. Can we at least see him play?
And the only way we would get Arch Manning,
we're going to have to lose 15 games again.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do it either.
So
give me Caleb Williams.
Let's take our quarterback now and never have to do this again.
And never worry about him. Right.
Yeah. I don't want to do this again.
Let's do this. I don't want to do this again until I'm ready to retire.
Yeah.
15 years, 12 years, whatever the hell it is.
And Not a J-Tag says, if we pick 2 and don't go quarterback, would you be worried? Yeah, I would. Yeah, yes, I would. Well, yeah, yes, I would criticize it if they did that. Yes. I won't criticize them if they trade down. I will not criticize them if they trade down, even though I think they should take a quarterback. Because then I'll say, okay, I'll say to myself, well,
they didn't believe in the quarterback they want.
Even up in these quarterbacks to do it. But if you're picking 2 and you take Marvin Harrison Jr. or you take a tackle or with these guys that are perceived to be elite quarterback prospects, like if you don't think they are, someone else is going to.
Right.
So for me, if you're picking in the top 2, you either take a quarterback in this draft or you trade out of it. That to me is the only 2 options if you're picking that high in this draft.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel right now, at least. Maybe I'll feel differently come draft time, but that's the way I feel right now. So, yes, if we stayed at 2 and did not select a quarterback, I would be pissed off.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy if they took another position at 2. Like Chris said, if they trade down, I get it. Because if you're picking 2, you can't draft a luxury position there. And the only other person that's not a quarterback that's worthy of a 2 picks, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
I wouldn't like throw a fit about it, but
I'd be excited for Marvin Harrison Jr., but I wouldn't think it's the right decision.
I would. Right, I was gonna say I don't think it's the right decision, but I'm a nobody. I'm looking at my tweet here about the Danny DeVito. Bob Papa did that. He called him Danny DeVito. Carl Banks.
I saw that.
I don't know what the hell a viral tweet is. That thing has almost 200,000 impressions. That tweet about Tommy DeVito.
Oh, Tommy DeVito.
That's crazy. Tommy DeVito. Somebody responded. They go, I went right past this. They go, I went right past this tweet at the beginning because I thought it was Joey from Friends. We all look the same. We're all Italians. Root for Tommy D.
I just want to win games. I mean, I think we all just want to win games. Amazing guy. The conversations that we have is what gives this team the best chance to win games long term. That's
correct.
That's where we're at. And for me, I believe in Joe Shane. And for me, what gives Joe Shane the best opportunity to keep his job and keep building this team? For me, it's drafting a quarterback.
Again, you can look past the lack of production as a concern. I'm more concerned about Daniel Jones' health. 2 neck injuries, 2 separate neck injuries in 2 years, and now a torn ACL. Again, these are not minor injuries. He didn't break his knuckle because he threw a pass and hit a guy in the helmet. He didn't pull a hamstring. He didn't pull a groin muscle. He doesn't have plantar fasciitis, whatever. When you're messing around with a neck, serious. I mean, that can paralyze you. That's a serious thing. And when you tear an ACL, That is not a minor injury. It's just not. So again, they pass on a quarterback. Deion Jones gets hurt and can't play anymore, misses another year, and then you're forced to take a quarterback, and then you have another terrible season. You're probably gone.
Yeah.
You're probably gone.
No, he would be gone if he stuck with Jones and the team bombed again. And you passed up on
correct,
a high-end potential quarterback.
Yeah.
Abe says the special teams coach needs to be gone. Yeah,
he's out.
He's the one of the first ones out the door. Like
they might even fire him before the year's over.
Like I think he's him, Bobby Johnson. Like I think that's like a lock. Like those, I'd be stunned if those guys keep their jobs. I think it starts to get a little bit of a gray area when we talk about the coordinators, whether or not they're going to be back. But the guys like the offensive line coach, the special teams coach, those guys are gone, man. Those guys are as good as gone.
Yep.
Not a J-Tag says May or Caleb Williams if you got a shot at both.
Caleb, not close. Not close. Not even a debate.
I don't want to answer that question yet because but I'm leaning Caleb right now. But I want to wait until the draft when I get an opportunity to really look into the guys and really give my opinion. Because I will say I like Drake May a lot. But I'd be thrilled with either one.
I'd rather have Penix over May, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yeah, those are my two guys. They've been my two guys for years. Michael Penix not only has one of the strongest arms in the draft, he's very smart. He has a great attitude. He's a guy that'll get in your face on the sideline if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. He's a winner. Like, he's a winner. He won at Indiana. Nobody wins at Indiana. He won there. He goes to Washington. He's got the team undefeated in the Pac-12. He beat Oregon. He beat USC. I believe they beat Arizona. Well, USC was ranked. They're not ranked now, but he's going through the gauntlet of a lot of good teams. And do they play Oregon? They don't play Oregon State. Washington has another tough game. I think.
Well, they're probably going to play in the playoffs.
Play Washington State. Washington State will be good because kind of sleeper is. They do play Oregon State. So my bad. They play Oregon State, which is the number 10 team in the country right now. 7:30 on Saturday. So he plays another top 10 team. So he has played Oregon, which was ranked 6th. That's Oregon's only loss. He played.
He'd be my Heisman Trophy winner this year. I think Penix.
Yeah,
I would. Yeah, I prefer May as in terms of in the draft, but Penix to me is the Heisman Trophy winner this year. He's been great.
I like Penix a lot, so I have liked him a lot for a while. I'd just rather have him.
Let's see. And Stanley says, "Hey, Chris and Bad Dog, do you think the Giants will make a trade with the Bills?" No, I do not. No. We were asked that early. Well, we weren't asked if they would. We were asked about the hypothetical, but no, I do not think that's going to happen. Marky says, "Let's say the Giants have the 3rd pick, take Marvin, and then use the 2nd rounders to move back into the 1st to take Penix." For me, if you believe in Penix, you take him with that 3rd pick.
Right.
Like you're not going to
that he's going to worry. How are you going to get up?
I know it would be viewed by some as like overdrafted. Like he's supposed to go 18 by these mocks or whatever. You don't dick around with the quarterback position. If you believe that Michael Penix is a franchise quarterback, and if you are taking one in the 1st round, you better believe he is. Otherwise, what are you doing? You take him with your pick. It's the most important position. You don't go for value at that position.
He's going top 10.
I'm just saying, like that's not happening. If they believe in a quarterback, they're taking a quarterback.
Yep.
You're not doing that.
Everybody keeps talking about Penix's torn ACLs. They don't have any idea, like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't here, I guess. Don't understand the story of his torn ACL. It's the same ACL. He tore it twice. He tore it twice because when he came back from it the first time, doctor told him not to test it, and he didn't listen. And he tore it again. So it never really healed all the way. So that was his fault. He admits that. A shoulder injury in Indiana. Can't draft scared. I don't know how many times I got to say this. Saquon Barkley, no injury history at Penn State. How's he done here? How many injuries? Daniel Jones, he had a broken collarbone. He didn't miss any time with that. He played 36 games in 3 years. How's he done? How many injuries has he sustained? Adrian Peterson tore his ACL in college. Did that stop anybody? Did that stop the Vikings from drafting him and him becoming one of the greatest running backs in the history of football because he had a torn ACL in college? No. You can't be scared of it. If you think that's the guy, You take him. Like Chris said, you don't dick around and go, well, we really like him, but we're scared because he tore his ACL 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You can't worry about that.
If you believe in the guy, if you believe in the guy, you take the guy.
When you draft, you're assuming. Now, if he was coming off of a torn ACL going to the draft, that's a different story. But something that happened 5 years ago when he was a freshman in Indiana, you can't really concern yourself with something that happened that long ago. You just can't. If you like him, you take him.
Yeah.
You cannot worry about it. You can't go into the draft going, oh, God, Marvin Harrison Jr. is incredible wide receiver. What if he tears his Achilles in training camp? You don't know. Those a guy with no injury history could easily have an injury history in the NFL. We've seen this with our two biggest players on offense for years.
No.
Right?
Bottom line for me is if Joe Shane doesn't feel strongly enough to take a quarterback with our first pick, for me, I don't want him taking a quarterback early in the draft.
There's no reason to.
It's too important of a position. Like you have to be completely sold on that guy to take a quarterback early in the draft. You have to be completely sold. And if you are completely sold, you're taking him with your first pick.
Yep.
That's the way I view it. That's just me.
Because you don't settle. I mean, you can't sit there and go, well, we're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then we'll settle for the guy that falls to us.
Yeah. You don't settle for a quarterback. And it's not like people will point to Russell Wilsons of the world. That's a completely different scenario. The Seattle Seahawks were a team that had just brought in Flynn. They viewed him as the guy, and even though that didn't work out, and they had the Legion of Boom. Like they had a pretty complete football team. They drafted a guy in the 3rd round, and it worked out.
Same thing with Dak.
Same thing with Dak and the Dallas Cowboys. Like, if you have an opportunity to draft your guy, you don't say, "Oh, well, he might drop to 18. Let's trade down," or no. You take Penix there if you believe in him.
Yeah.
And they're going to. If they're going quarterback, they're not going to trade down and take a quarterback.
No, they're going to take their guy, whoever the hell that is. We don't know who the hell that is.
Yeah. Let's see.
Teams passed him. It was more than Randy Moss 420ing it up, by the way.
Smoke weed every day.
It was more than that for Randy Moss. Randy Moss had other issues. I think he got arrested for something.
He did.
And
I think Warren Sapp was marijuana, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but Randy Moss had other issues that kind of knocked his draft stock down. Because I saw the thing on what was this 30 for 30 called? And he was just kind of wrong place, wrong time. He didn't really do anything.
You talking about
Marshall? Like he ended up going to Marshall because no college wanted to recruit him because of that. What the hell was that called? What the hell? Somebody in the chat will know what the hell that was called. The Randy Moss 30 for 30 or biography on Randy Moss. Maybe it wasn't a 30 for 30. It was really good, and I can't think of the title of the. I don't know why the hell I'm doing this to myself.
I think I saw it, but I can't remember it.
That's what Google's for.
How would you guys feel about signing Hollywood Brown in free agency?
Rand University. That's what it was called.
He's University. Me? I'd rather spend money differently in free agency. I'd rather draft a receiver, but I don't view Hollywood Brown as a number one. So if I'm spending money in free agency for a wide receiver, I'd want it to be a guy that I feel could be a number one, like a difference maker. So for me, if I'm getting that quality receiver, I'd rather just try to get.
I'd rather pay T. Higgins than.
Yeah, well, that's a guy that you feel could be a one.
Right.
But I'd rather just draft my guy if we're talking about that level wide receiver. He's a good receiver, but
yeah, we kind of have. And I like Hollywood Brown. Obviously, he played for Oklahoma, so
yeah.
And he's Antonio Brown's cousin. So luckily, Hollywood's not a.
Is that a good thing?
No, but like genetics wise, it is.
Yeah, genetically, it's good.
It's really good. But we kind of have that. We kind of have those slot guys. You know what I mean? He's not a big guy. Is he 5'10"? He's. We don't really have a tall receiver. We have a bunch. We have a Wandale Robinson. Like I don't think we need a Hollywood Brown. I just feel like there's other positions to put money into before we go there with the wide receiver.
What would you like if you were setting the percentages right now in the draft, like in terms of what we're going to do with our first pick today? Let's just combine May and because I think those are the two favorites right now. Let's combine May and Caleb Williams into one because we first or second pick, right? Let's put Marvin Harrison Jr. in there. And let's put trade back in there because those are probably the three most likely outcomes. How would you label your percentages right now?
90% quarterback.
Yeah.
10% or 8% trade back, 2% Marvin Harrison.
If we're picking top 2, I agree with you, but I do think there's an option where we're picking 4 or 5 where Harrison becomes a possibility.
If we're picking 5th, then I think Marvin Harrison's the guy.
Yeah.
Then I think you have to choke back on the quarterback again.
Yeah. You get Harrison and
because you can't
and you get all the
like a guy enough to say he's worth the fit unless if Penix is there and they say we'll take him, I'm not going to get mad at that. But if all three of those guys, because I think they're the 3 consensus best quarterbacks, Penix, Caleb, and Drake May. But if they like J.J. McCarthy that much, like I said, you don't mess around with it. You take them there. But I just, again, whatever this, points be damned, or mocks be damned. They don't matter. None of the mocks matter. It's just a guessing game. It's like meteorology. People that's why they make my mock 19.7. They make 20 damn mocks. Nobody knows. So the only mock that matters is Joe Shane's. So if they really like a quarterback that's besides those top 3 guys, they're going to go there. If they want a quarterback, they're picking top 5 and he's there. They're going quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm with. I don't know. If we're picking top 2, I'm with you. I'm like 90% quarterback. I just don't know if there's a 90% chance we're going to be picking top 2. But if we're
Arizona just passed us, and Kyler Murray. Listen, Kyler Murray's playing for his job. You don't think Kyler Murray's sitting there going, "Well, geez, if I suck, I'm out of here," because they're drafting a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think Arizona's got at least one. I didn't know they were going to beat the Falcons. I think they got one more win them. Carolina's a bit concerning. I don't know if the only thing, like I said, the only thing that helps them is they're not going to tank. They have no reason to tank, and they're going to want to build some momentum with Bryce Young. So you hope that somehow they upset somebody a couple of times. I don't think the Giants are winning another game. The Patriots game is the only one I said they go, well, maybe. But I still think the Patriots win the game 10-3.
Baddog, you want some edibles or you want some ganja? Amazing guy thinks the Giants could win 4 more games.
I don't know what to say.
I need you to hook us up with your guy, amazing guy. No chance. I could see 1, maybe 2 if you want to stretch it. Not 4. No way. No chance.
Yeah, if they were going to win 4 games, they would have already won those 4 games by now.
Yeah. And Stanley says, "Hey, Chris Baddog, what's your thoughts on?"
Don't even mention a Duke quarterback ever, please. Don't even. Just buy. That's not even. No. That's worse than amazing, guys. Think about the Giants winning. I'd rather. I believe that. I'll tell you this: the Giants have better odds at winning 4 games down the stretch than they do at drafting Riley Leonard.
We're not drafting Riley Leonard. Abe says, "Saw somewhere today we have the best shot with the best odds to be number 1." I wouldn't shock me because the teams that are competing with us have a lot more to play for than we do. Kyler Murray is playing for his job. Carolina is playing for molding a young quarterback, and they have no dog in the fight. They don't have a draft pick. If anything, they don't want to be embarrassed. Like they have a ton of incentive to not allow the Bears to get the first pick. Like, could you imagine what Carolina would look like as an organization if they draft Caleb Williams and Caleb Williams turns out to be the next Pat Mahomes? Like, so those teams have a ton of incentive to win games. So,
Carolina's not drafting a quarterback anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Carolina has how embarrassing would it be for that franchise?
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
If the Bears take Caleb Williams with their pick and he turns out to be Pat Mahomes. So those teams, I think they have a ton of incentive to win as many games as they can. So, well, not that Arizona is a team, but Kyler Murray is a player, definitely has a ton of incentive to keep his job. So I'm not surprised the Giants have the highest odds to have the number 1 pick, to be honest with you. They've got nothing to play for. Yeah. So I'm not surprised. And we play the Eagles twice.
Yep.
And Brian says FPI doesn't have us winning a game, so pick number 1, here we come. Fire the offensive line special teams coaches and run it back with Wink and Kafka.
I think Kafka's gone. If there's because we talked about earlier, Brian, I think Dable wants full autonomy with that. And if I'm Brian Dable, I want to be responsible for the quarterback. I don't want to put that guy in somebody else's hands, knowing that my job's at stake. If I have a job and my performance, it is dependent on somebody else and they fail. That makes me fail. I'm going to be more uncomfortable with that than let me just take it myself. And if I don't get the job done, then I have nobody to blame but myself. Instead of sitting there questioning myself, why did I bring him back and let him call the plays when he screwed me up? Or Kafka comes in 2 games, the play calling sucks, and Dable's like, all right, I'm taking over now.
Yeah.
I
I don't want to use the term stunned, but I'd be moderately surprised if Kafka's back next year.
Yeah.
I'm leaning he won't be back. I'm leaning Wink will be back, but I wouldn't be surprised with him either if he wasn't. Bob says, Bad Dog, sun-kissed? What happened to Coke Zero?
Any zero sugar, Bob. Any zero sugar. These are $1.69. So, and I love sun-kissed. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Zero sugar. Zero. I have zero A&W up there. I had zero sugar 7-Up, zero sugar Coke, zero sugar Pepsi, zero sugar Dr. Pepper. As long as it's zero sugar soda, I don't care. I like all kinds of soda, all of it. I don't really get zero sugar Sprite because it goes flat fast, and I don't like that, which is why I don't refrigerate my soda. Because I feel like when you put soda in the refrigerator, it gets flat, so I drink it at room temperature because the carbonation lasts longer.
You don't put ice cubes in it?
Hell no, that'll flatten it out too. I don't like that.
You drink warm soda?
Warm soda, room temperature soda all the time.
Interesting.
Cold water, if it's not carbonated, I want that cold. But carbonated drinks, well, not beer. Beer needs to be cold. But I can't drink. Yeah, same thing of like a lot of my stuff. Yeah, like iced tea, like zero sugar iced tea. You usually drink that room temperature too.
Yeah, I seen Logic
Talker cold, beer cold, water cold.
I seen Logic Talker pull up the tweet that Authentic pulled up a receipt from like 18 months ago. Yeah, in the conversation, I later said I'm exaggerating a bit, 3 first-round picks. But yeah, if the Giants were picking 12 or so, which is what the cost would have been from 12 to like 3, yeah, I would have. Yes, I like C.J. Stroud that much going into last year, but at 25, it wasn't obtainable.
Right.
But yeah, if we were picking 12, you saw the price it was for Carolina to move up from like whatever it was to 1. It was a ton. I would have been open to a trade like that. I like C.J. Stroud a lot. Not a J-Tag says, I don't see Chicago going quarterback. I do, if they're picking first. Yeah. One strike, you get one shot as a GM. Like, think about it like this. If you're Poles, the GM for the Chicago Bears, this dude went out there. He traded for Chase Claypool, who obviously didn't work, but he gave up pretty high draft capital for Chase Claypool. He invested the first pick in the second round for Chase Claypool. He then made
Sweat.
He then gets Montez Sweat. He then goes out and gets DJ Moore for this dude. And last year, you bypassed taking a quarterback with the first overall pick when you had an opportunity to take C.J. Stroud. You stuck with Fields. They weren't winning when Fields was playing. Then Fields got hurt. You're taking a quarterback if you have the first pick if you're the Chicago Bears.
Absolutely.
You're taking a friggin' quarterback.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Question is zero sugar. How is it still sweet?
Because it's artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
You ever use Sweet and Low or Equal or any of that stuff? It's chemicals. It's just the way they make it sweet without. It's not sugar. It's artificial sweetener. It's good for you. Yeah. No calories.
And he didn't draft Fields. Yeah, even more of a reason. Kind of like RGM didn't draft Jones. So it's very similar situation with Chicago. But yeah, they say that's bad for you, Bad Dog. But what isn't bad for you in today's day and age? Everything's bad for you.
Who's they?
I don't know. That's what I've heard. The artificial sweeteners.
Well, who's they? That's us. Who's they?
I don't know. I don't know who they is. I can't quantify
who's they? Because all the guys that I aspire to be
said that. I don't know.
The guys that I look at, the guys that won, that made a living in bodybuilding contests, and I like to be in shape like a bodybuilder, that all live on zero sugar sweetener and zero sugar Jello and everything else. Greg Doucette says, I tell all my aspartame because it ain't going to do anything to you. There's no proven scientific fact that it hurts you. So again, would you rather drink regular soda? I wouldn't. With all that sugar in it? No. You're going to drink water every day for the rest of your life? You're not doing that. So what else do you drink? Milk, loaded with sugar, loaded with calories. Okay. You gonna drink fruit punch, iced tea?
By the way, I do the same thing as you. When I drink soda, I drink what you're drinking. So I'm not saying I don't do it, but I'm just saying that's what they say.
I hear this all the time. Well, that's bad for you. I'm like, okay. It might be bad for you. It ain't bad for me. It's helped me acquire the physique that I want. So I must be doing something okay. Blood work's immaculate. Blood pressure immaculate. Cholesterol immaculate. I have no issues. So it's fine right now.
And Mike says, I'm about to get an engineering. I just read this tonight. I thought it was funny. He says, I'm about to get unless maybe the GPA scale has changed, but he says, I'm about to get an engineering degree with a 2.8 GPA, and artificial sweeteners are more carcinogenic than cigarettes. That might be very true, Mike. What I just found funny about your post was you're bragging, and I'm not. That's great. I'm glad that you're getting an engineering degree, and I'm sure that's a very hard degree to get. But is a 2.8 GPA anything to brag about? Like, I would probably Did they change it? When I went to college, it was a 4 was the highest GPA. Maybe that's changed.
Right.
That's about what my GPA
I don't know what engineering has to do with artificial sweeteners. I also would think that your English GPA must be terrible because you spelled cigarettes wrong. So worry about getting a better GPA than worried about what is an artificial sweetener.
Oh, it was a joke. My mistake, Mike. My mistake. I thought that was a funny joke then, because I thought it was funny when you said it. So good job. That was a good joke.
Terrible. It's just below average.
It's an okay joke.
It's not 1.8. You know what I mean?
No, 2.8 is okay.
0.8. 2.8. 2.8 is like a C plus, a B minus.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not. That's not awful.
That's what I had. Average.
Right.
Average. 2.8 GPA is like Daniel Jones.
Average to middling.
You want the 4.0.
Right. But my wife was like a 3.86 or 3.9, whatever she was. She was ridiculously smart.
Yeah.
I mean, she has to be smart. She married me. I mean, you're not getting any smarter than that. She married me and reproduced with me. So what a woman.
We're going to close this out in like 2 minutes. Justice asked us a trivia question, so I'm going to answer it. What team did Giants beat in overtime in the 2021 NFL season? New Orleans Saints.
Right. That's when Daniel Jones threw for over 400 yards.
One of the funnest streams we ever did together. That's the one where I have the stand-up where I almost went deaf. That was a fun one.
That was amazing.
Tommy B says,
23 years old? Burrow NYC said, Penix is too over me. They're 23 years old. I don't know what the hell I am then.
the age thing to me, I don't worry about, because at the end of the day,
23.
If the guy's good, the guy's good. Joe Burrow was 24, and you heard it about him.
Exactly.
Now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So
3.
By the time the guy hits it, the way I look at it is this, Bad Dog. Back in the old days, quarterbacks didn't start really playing until they were 24.
Right?
Now everything's accelerated. So if you draft a guy like Burrow and he has an immediate impact like he did, it would have been like a quarterback was back in the late 90s. He wouldn't play till he was 24 anyway. So that's just the way I look at it. Tommy B says Rodney Hampton is in the Giants Ring of Honor, but not Hostetler. Please tell me that's not correct. Listen,
Hostetler's not going to be in the Ring of Honor. He won a Super Bowl because Sims got hurt. Hostetler's not a Ring of Honor guy.
I agree with you, but that's the difference. And obviously, I'm not bad-mouthing the Eagles now. I mean, I always like to. They're the best team in football right now. They have the best record, at least. But that's the difference between the Eagles and Giants. Jeff Hostetler, who was an integral part of our Super Bowl, huge part of our Super Bowl, he's not even going to sniff the Ring of Honor. And I agree with you. Rodney Hampton belongs in there long before Jeff Hostetler does. Nick Foles got a statue outside the stadium. That's the difference between the Eagles and the Giants.
True.
Jeff Hostetler's our Nick Foles. You don't see anything from Jeff Hostetler outside the stadium.
Right.
Sean says, I want to say that's a lie, Bad Dog. You're a Giants fan. That BP high sometimes. P.S. I'm late. Any thoughts on re-signing Pugh?
My blood pressure is 110 over 72. And when I get mad, my blood pressure actually doesn't go up. I always say that, like, I don't get, like, you would think my heart would be screaming and everything. It doesn't. When I get nervous, it does. Like when it's a close game towards the end, That's when my blood pressure will go up, not when I'm yelling. I think my body's used to the screaming. I don't think it does it. But on cheat days on Saturday, when I'm eating sugar, and I eat a lot of sugar some days, I feel my blood pressure spike without question. Somebody actually joked around me at work. They're like, you ought to take your blood pressure at the beginning of Saturday and at the end of Saturday to see how it changes, which is why I cut down a lot of the sugar, because I'm like, I can't keep doing that to myself. That's not healthy. When you can feel your blood pressure go up, that's not good.
Not a JTech says the past 7 years rooting for this team, I feel like Robin Williams when he was trapped in Jumanji. Okay. Yeah. I could probably come up with much worse comparisons, but not bad. Not bad. I maybe I'll go back and watch Jumanji again. Definitely a movie I liked growing up as a kid. But okay. I could probably think of worse things to say, but yeah, that's not bad. But Bad Dog, we're gonna close this out. We'll be live on Bad Dogs on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So
the Giants and the Commanders, and
come on by, watch
quarterback, our touchdown leading passer, Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, so you get to watch us stream Tommy DeVito again. It'll bring back shades of Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon, and
I don't think Mike Glennon threw 3 touchdowns in his career at the Giants. So
if you're a fan of the tank, which a lot of the people in this chat at this point probably are, is this our most winnable game left on the schedule outside of New England, I guess?
Yeah. The next 2, if we get out of the next 2 with losses, we're getting.
Well, Green Bay, I think is another one we can win.
Green Bay's going to beat us
off the bye. I think we could beat Green. I'm not saying we will, but I wouldn't be starting.
Christian Watson will have a massive game.
Oh, I'm sure he will. But
AJ Dillon will run through us like they got Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Dude, they just run the ball down our throat.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens this week. Giants take on Washington, and let's just hope we have a good time and have some fun watching our team play that we love and that we know sucks. But guys, be good. And Bad Dog, close it out.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We have 7 more of these. It's great. And the more games we play, the better idea we'll have where we're drafting. And it's unfortunate that we have to do this before Thanksgiving, but pretty much every week from here on out, that's probably what this is going to be about. So, like I said, we'll just have a more clear picture and be able to watch some more college football, and we'll go from there. But you guys and girls are the best. This fan base has been through a lot of shit. At the end of the day, I just want this to get better. That's it. I just want this team to win. I want this team to be competitive every year. I don't want one outlier year every 6 years when we're winning 20 games, the other 5 combined. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the losing. And I just feel like it's time for a change of quarterback. It's something that they have not changed. They've changed everything else around Daniel Jones. They haven't changed that. And I think that this coming draft, we're going to see that change, and then we're going to see what happens. So hopefully you're with us through the whole ride, because it's going to be one hell of one. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening, everybody. And we'll see you next time. The Entertainment Talk Sports. Bad Diggy Dizzle. We gone. Peace.
Have a good night, guys. If we don't see you on Sunday, have a happy Thanksgiving.